Riku Kiramine, a second-year high school student, became despondent after being rejected by his childhood friend. He happens to enter a convenience store and saves a clerk who is being attacked by a robber. The clerk turns out to be Iona Hashimiya, the most popular and beautiful gal in school. As a result of this incident, Iona asks Riku to protect her from a stalker, and they start living together under the guise of him protecting her as she lives alone. The whole story low-key goes down in our protagonist Rika's classroom with two total bombshells. The first one was a super cute girl called Hashimi Iona, and the other one was chill with literally everyone. His childhood friend, Heracles Haruno, who Riko had planned to confess to today. Riko actually had a pretty brutal past back when he was a kid. He lost his entire family in an accident, including his dad, mom, and little sister. After that, he was completely lonely and had basically lost the drive to keep living. But during those rough times, his childhood friend Haruno was the one who lifted him back up. And since then, she had always stayed right by his side until now, and he hoped if he confessed his feelings to her, they would always stay together and become a family. He wanted to somehow reclaim all those things that he lost in that accident, and believed it connected with a brighter future with Haruno. But life seriously wasn't about to go easy on him, as Haruno turned down his confession because she only saw Riku as a childhood friend, and she could never look at him any differently. But Riku was so crushed by that rejection that while he was heading back, Riku had completely lost his reason to keep living. The only thing that kept him moving forward was his future with Haruno, which got shattered right in front of his eyes, and he didn't want to live anymore. The only thing he wanted badly now was death, and the place he wanted to die was the spot where he used to go a lot for picnics. He also had tons of good memories with Riku in that beautiful place, and hoped to die peacefully. Suddenly, his stomach started randomly hurting, and he decided to stop by the convenience store. He walked inside with his hand on his aching stomach, and the cashier greeted him, but suddenly Riku excused himself as he rushed straight to the bathroom. After that, he didn't even know what he was doing anymore, and when he came out of the bathroom, there was a robber with a knife in his hand yelling at the cashier if she wanted to die. The robber demanded from her all the money, and Riku understood the situation. Then he thought he was gonna die anyway. So if he could save the cashier, that could be his final act of kindness in his life, and he might go to heaven to see his family. He made a weird sound from his throat behind the robber to grab his attention, and when the robber turned around, Rika casually just said hi to him. The robber yelled what he meant by a hi, and Rika told him not to yell so much. The robber snapped what he even came here for, to which Rika casually replied to use the bathroom, which made even the robber demand if he actually understood the situation. Rika casually said this was a robbery, and his calm attitude made the robber yell at him, asking if he thought he was some kind of special agent. Rika stated he was just a normal high schooler searching for death, and the robber shouted that it was too messed up to even think about. Now the robber got dead serious as he told Riku not to underestimate that or think he wouldn't kill anybody, as he would murder him for real. The cashier was terrified while Riku just told the robber to kill him then, since he wanted to die either way as he lost his family in an accident. His childhood friend who meant everything to him rejected him, and now this life was completely worthless. Riku even went as far as to grab the robber's hand to say kill him if he was gonna do it, and make it quick. But he also requested him to not hurt the cashier after this, otherwise he would curse him to death. The cashier was shocked by it, whereas the robber was honestly scared himself after all the things Riku said, and he ran away as it turned out he didn't have enough courage as he bragged. Rika wondered what was wrong with that dude as he acted like such an easy target, and either way he asked the cashier if everything was okay. Then the cashier asked him if he was Riku Kurami, which surprised Riku as he asked how she knew his name. She introduced herself saying she was in his class, named Ayana Hashimiya. Riko was shocked to realize she was actually Jaro Hashimiya, one of the beauties from their class. She was popular among both guys and girls in the class. And now taking another look at the cashier, he figured she really did look alike. But it was honestly surprising to see her appearance changing that much. Then Iona asked him if he could wait until the owner arrived, because it was a rule that police would come and ask him some questions. Riko was a little irritated, but he said okay, and later on the owner arrived along with the police. She was a pretty weird woman, And while she was talking to the police, Iona told Rico he was amazing since he scared the robber by saying that he would commit suicide. She thanked him for saving her life, but then Riku corrected her saying he was actually going to do it. And he really did lose his family in an accident and got rejected by his childhood friend. Iona was genuinely astonished to find out it was all true. Then Rika suddenly started walking out, but she stopped him. He asked her quietly what happened, to which she replied he was incredible and must have worked so hard to live until now. She mentioned that if she was honestly in his place and lost family and childhood friends, she wouldn't live with that, and she shouldn't be saying this. But with tears in her eyes, Iona requested Riku to live on. Her words made him feel slightly warmer as he smiled and said he won't die now. She brightened up happily, asking if he really meant it. And he promised her while making a little joke she was such a total crybaby for him, as if she was going to be robbed again. She admitted that was because she was really so scared after he said he wanted to die. But now, Reika casually mentioned he was glad she wasn't hurt, and she thanked him for the help. Riko asked her politely to get her hand off him, because inside he was a little secretly nervous, since this was the first time a girl other than Haruno had touched him. Ayana apologized for touching him, and he told her not to worry about it, and actually he should be sincerely thanking her for thinking about him. Now Riko asked her if her house was nearby, to which she replied it was about 15 minutes riding a bike. Then she asked him back the same question, to which he replied that it'd take almost 3 hours to reach his home from here, and he was here since he was going to kill himself after all. She told him to stop seriously worrying her, and either way 3 hours was too much. She asked if he lives with somebody else who could possibly pick him up. But unfortunately Rika lives alone, and currently has only 5 yen with him. She mentioned it must be pretty bad for him, but he positively stated it wasn't that bad since he got to meet her, and this 5 yen was what made it possible. She commented he was surely kind of funny, then thought of asking Riku if he would like to come to her house. Riku was shocked by the sudden random invite from her, and she assured him she lives alone, so there was nothing to worry about. Riku was extremely nervous thinking about a man and a woman being together in a house. Then the store owner suddenly came and mentioned that it would be great because apparently Ayana had some strange troubles. She mentioned having seen some creepy shadows around, and also pointed out that once even her panties got stolen once. Iona said that must have been the wind, but the store owner was sure that someone was stalking Ayana, and they were always secretly watching and following her. So she asked Riku if he could maybe spend the night in her place as her bodyguard, and Rika didn't mind this idea at all, and thus it was settled that Riku would take good care of her. But Iona didn't want to trouble him with her own personal problems. Rika stated he should help her since she made him forget his suicidal thoughts and saved him. Iona mentioned he also saved her life in the robbery, to which he replied they were even, and so they ended up eventually going back to Iona's house. Rika stated her house looked a little slightly rusty. Then he asked her why she lives alone. She replied her parents have been away for a business trip for about a year, and he asked her if she didn't feel lonely. She admitted it was a little bit emotionally lonely, but she knew she would see them again. Riko assured her not to worry about him. He was better now, seeing which she was glad to see that he was doing fine. Then Riko asked her why she dresses as a Jaru in the school, or was that her usual everyday outfit, hearing which suddenly made her remember something traumatic, as she replied with unalivised that it was just for an image change. Now she headed to her room, and told him not to expect it to be clean. And Riko claimed he didn't really expect it, which kind of annoyed her a bit. Upon entering her room, everything was really surprisingly clean, with a cute bed and soft plushies around it. She asked Riku if her room looked weird, but he unexpectedly praised how fruity it smelled, or more precisely Ayana's smell in the room. She called him a total pervert, and asked him not to smell around like that. After which he asked her if it was really fine to stay the night, since she might have a boyfriend or something. But Iona denied she didn't have one, and this was her first time having a boy in her room. Riku asked how come she hadn't invited a man over even if she was a Jaru, which made her question just what he thinks of Jarius. She allowed him to use the bathroom and washing machine as he liked, and he thanked her for the bath as well. He wondered a little if she wasn't conscious of him as a man, or do girls see him as a cute puppy. At the same time, Iona was taking a relaxing bath, So it made Rico imagine what if she were to invite him inside the bath like a cute puppy. But soon his fantasies ended with Iona coming out of the bath, and she was really looking unbelievably beautiful and pure like an angel out of the bathroom. She had a nervous expression asking why he was staring, and Riku replied it was nothing, but as she sat down in front of him, he didn't know where to look. Then Iona asked him where he would sleep, to which he replied he was okay with the entrance, but she exclaimed that won't do because his body would definitely hurt in the morning. He asked them what they were supposed to do, except sleeping in the bed, to which she said it would be okay, which left Riku all completely shocked, and he could see she was quite nervous about this. Then she told Riku he was worrying too much, and he said sorry while she voiced her concern that if he were to try anything to her, she would get mad. Riku assured her not to worry because he wasn't even thinking of laying a finger on her seriously, and she was honestly amazed by that. Then Rika decided to sleep on the floor instead, and he assured her it was completely fine. As the carpet was soft enough, she was still worried about it. Then Rico asked her if she was okay sleeping with men. She exclaimed to not think of her as a girl like that, and she actually doesn't do those kinds of things. Rico phrased it clearly that she was a virgin, and she shouted he didn't have to say it like that while calling him a total pervert. After that, Iona got in her bed while Rico was in a futon on the floor, as they wished good night to each other. Later in the morning, Rika woke up early and saw Iona had tears in her eyes as she must be really emotionally lonely. Being far away from her parents, he thought that Iona was a flashy Jaro, but in reality, she was so pure and innocent as he wiped her tears from her eyes. He was thankful to Iona because these tears were what truly saved his life. Then he woke her up and said he would go home now, so she should close the door and they would see each other at school. After that, Rico went back to his home and got ready for school. Even though he didn't want to go to school since he was about to commit suicide after Haruno dumped him, he didn't know how he should look at her. So to his surprise, his childhood friend Haruno showed up at the door to wish him good morning. Rico found it strange of her to act like she didn't remember what happened yesterday, so she asked him an unexpected random question about where he went yesterday after school. Rika doesn't understand why she asked, and he didn't know that fateful day made him and Iona something that shouldn't have happened. Later on at school, Riku had an intense, awkward morning with Rika questioning him about what he did yesterday. He somehow deceives her, but he doesn't know if he should treat her the same way after she rejected him. She was popular as always, and it kind of emotionally hurt him. Then he decided to look elsewhere and saw Hashimi Iona, and it looked obvious how popular she was, and it was hard to think she was actually very different from the calm and collected person she was at home. Then Haruno came and asked him what he was looking at. Riku was startled by her sudden, unexpected question. Then she asked him if he was looking at Iona, and he questioned her if he couldn't look wherever he wanted to. Haruno mentioned he does always look at her, and also there has been a rumor about Iona that involves a lot of guys. Riku objected to it, which made Haruno think if he and Iona got in some weird mess together. Riku lied there was nothing between him and Iona. Then Haruno mentioned she hadn't heard about anyone confessing to Iona, which was surprising given how beautiful she was. Haruno mentioned Iona was always with her friend Kana, and then Haruno's friend called her out to look at something. Suddenly, Iona's friend Kana shouted out loud in shock after learning that Rika stayed at Iona's place. Iona asked her not to be so loud. Then Kana questioned her if she was going out with Riku. She clearly denied it, but after Kana shouted that out before, the guys of their class started saying things like Iona was surely living up to the rumors, and now she was involved even with a guy like Riku. They were also pissed about the fact that Riku was always with Haruno as well, which means he was now involved with both beautiful girls of their class. Meanwhile, Iona had started feeling visibly nervous, while her friend Kana was sorry that her actions started people to spread rumors now. Rika knew it wasn't Iona's fault, and now she got in a mess, and since she had helped him before, he wanted to help her out of this mess. So Rika got up and thanked Iona out loud in front of everyone for going out with him. Iona was surprised by his sudden words, whereas Riku pretended to act as he said it was worth confessing while crying, and she agreed to go out with him because she felt sorry for him, although it was a bit harsh that she didn't let him hold her hand even if he was at her home. Iona asked him what he was talking about. Then he stated it was only for 1 month according to her, and he would be under her care for the time being. The other boys in the classroom thought the pathetic one here was Riku, who confessed while crying so much that she felt sorry for him, and the fact she didn't let him hold her hand means she must have a strong emotional guard. Riku was glad that he managed to protect her reputation, and Iona tried to deny it all, but the teacher arrived and students had to take their seats. Rika smiled as he thought that was the best possible solution, but whenever he looked at Iona, he could feel her staring at him a lot, which was cute, but for some reason, Haruno was also staring at him. But that was scary because she seemed to be angry for being lied to. Later on after the class, Haruno asked Riku to explain himself and tell her about what actually happened yesterday with Iona, and what was that about confessing while crying. She asked if he confessed to her while going out with Iona, to which Riku replied it happened after that, which made Haruno ask if he cared if it was just anyone that he would go out with. Riku refused it right away and made it clear that Haruno was still her shining beam of light, but she didn't see his words and actions match here. Rika stated he and Haruno were just childhood friends, so she shouldn't care about it. Then she added that childhood friends don't lie to each other, just like how she hadn't lied to him all this time they've been together. Riku just admitted he knew that, but Haruno went on to say why did it have to be Iona, not just anyone except her, as she felt deeply sad because of something she knew. Riku couldn't get what she was trying to say, and he told her this wasn't her problem. Haruno got upset and exclaimed to Riku to not talk to her anymore as she ran away from there. He tried to be clear there was nothing between him and Iona, but she left, and he thought he should get going as well. But then he noticed at the end of the corridor that Iona seemed to be quietly waiting ahead, and seeing her wait made Riku really happy. She asked him it was already late, to which Riku replied with a sad face it was nothing. She got a little more insistent as she asked if something did happen. Then either way Iona told him that she decided to forget what happened earlier. Her pretty and innocent smile made Rika feel like it was gently cleansing his soul. Then he asked her if she was mad about it, while saying he just did it to correct her reputation in the class. She said that wasn't the problem, and she has been asked a lot of questions after that. But she was concerned that Riku was okay, because everyone got the wrong idea about her and Riku. He told her not to worry about it, which means everything was all right, and Riko asked her why she was waiting for him. She said it was because she wanted to walk back home with him, and he mentioned even if he said they were dating, they don't have to go together. Iona made it clear it had nothing to do with it, and she herself wanted to go with him. She asked if he couldn't, and Rika didn't mind it, after which Iona thanked him for coming with her, and asked if he was going back on foot. Rika didn't have anyone at home, and Haruno rejected him, so even if he went home, he would be alone anyway. But even so, when it was time to part ways, he wished to see her tomorrow, but Iona didn't seem to be satisfied with this idea of parting here. So she mustered up the courage to ask Riku if he would like to live with her from now on. He asked her what she meant, to which she replied she still has the stalker problem, and when she asked police for help, they didn't do anything. So if Riko were to be with her, she would feel emotionally relieved. He questioned if she was really okay with both of them living together, and she said yes to it. Iona smiled and said she would be patiently waiting for him tonight, and when the time came he visited her home, whereas Iona was there to warmly welcome him. He figured if one were to see her in glasses like this, they would say she had two personalities, and right now she was kind of cute and plain. Iona then introduced Riku to her neighbor, who was also casually here, Mondo Chiharu. Mondo asked her if he was her boyfriend, to which she declined, and Riko stated it wasn't like that. He was just her classmate and bodyguard. Mondo expressed she was worried because Iona was having trouble with the stalker, as she asked Riku if he was thinking about doing anything to her, especially what all boys secretly want. Iona told her to shut up, after which Mondo introduced herself to Riku as an adult manga writer, which made him pretty suddenly nervous to hear. Then she asked him to call her mom in. Riko stated he found something wrong with that name. Then she asked him if he thought she was excited right now while calling him a total pervert. Now Mondo thought she might be getting in their way, so she quietly saw off after placing a mango in his pocket and left with a thanks to them. Now Riko wondered what to do with this adult mango, and where should he throw it. Then he noticed the character on it resembled Iona a bit. Then he quickly secretly hid the manga under Iona's bed, as he got a call from Haruno, and after replying to it, he heard Haruno's voice crying for some reason. He asked her what was wrong, to which she replied with an apology for getting mad at him before, and claimed she didn't know what was going on with her. But she didn't want to get away from him. She asked him if they could be friends again, and he didn't mind that part. Next she asked if he was going out with Ayana. He said some things happened, and now he was staying at her place. Hearing which, Haruno cried, and Rika stated he couldn't give her all the details right now, but there was nothing between them. After these questions, he wondered why she was still emotionally thinking about him after rejecting him, and after looking at the time, he figured it was time to pick Ayana from her part-time job. The store owner recognized Riku as the victim from the robbery, and asked him if he wanted to work here, since he was cute. Rika felt like she was inviting him to something illegal, and that aside, the owner told him if he was going to be Ayana's bodyguard, he had to protect her properly well. After that, Ayana came as her shift ended, and then they returned back on bicycle with her riding the cycle, and Rika sitting in back while holding her. However, he could see she was having trouble and asked her to swap with him, after which she thanked Riku and mentioned he didn't have anyone to rely on when he was having a bad time. He asked her what was the matter, to which she first sincerely thanked him for picking her up. But she felt like she was taking advantage of him, because a long time ago, her dad always kept to himself all that was bothering him, and right now he seems similar. She assured him it was perfectly fine to express his feelings at these times, and she would appreciate it if he would openly share his feelings with her. Riku replied that at the moment he wasn't completely well, but could take care of himself. He could tell Ayana was really genuinely kind, and he was grateful to Haruno for staying with him all this time as well. Then Ayana suggested they should maybe hang out tomorrow, and they could be free and do whatever they want. She asked if it sounded good to him, and Riku agreed with it, after which she mentioned it was like a date. He smiled and told her she was really such a great woman, which made her deeply flattered, and she told him not to say nonsense like that. Both of them smiled as they returned home, and the next day they went out to hang out. Iona's clothes were just like a regular stylish Jaro, and he wondered if he could even compare with her, as she asked him if he waited long. He replied it was only a little, and she complained he should say he just arrived. Then she asked him if something was wrong since he was quiet, to which Riku replied he just thought she was so unbelievably cute. She thanked for the compliment while blushing, and after that they went to see a movie together. In the middle of the movie, Riku teased her saying if a boy and a girl watch a romantic movie together, that would be a date, which startled Ayana, and she started coughing. He helped her by giving the drink to help it. Then she noticed it was like an indirect kiss, and he actually took her first kiss. Rika stated it doesn't count like this, but she told him he had to take responsibility, which made him wonder what she wanted him to do. After that, he noticed she was being quite emotionally distant since the indirect kiss, and she mentioned the first one only happens once in a lifetime. He wanted to fix her mood, so he told her he could take her wherever she wanted, and she immediately became all happy and normal. Iona suggested going to the game center, and Rika noticed there were many brand new games here since the last time he came here. Iona decided they should play air hockey, and so they had an intense match where Rika thought it would be easy. But to his surprise, she beat him with a 10-1 score, and told him that she used to be called the air hockey princess in the neighborhood back in the day. Rika didn't expect her to be this unbelievably great at it. Then he noticed her top was currently slightly see-through because of the sweating. So he took her from there while looking for a covered place, and stayed there to tell her that her top was see-through, and they should wait till it dries up. Iona thanked him for being so considerate, but she was worried if she smelled. Rika told her that a girl's scent was really nice, and that aside, he was thankful to her for everything today. It was a nice break, and he had so much fun today. Iona was glad she was able to take a lot of pictures with Riku, and she noticed he didn't seem to be used to taking photos since his smile was weird. Rika stated he couldn't help it since he doesn't smile a lot. Then she let him know that he has to smile lots from now on. Then Riku heard the sound of a truck, which triggered a very deeply traumatic experience from his past. So he quickly went to Iona and hugged her from behind. She was startled by this sudden unexpected hug, and told him it was too early for that, and they have to get to know each other a bit more. He asked her what happened to the car that was coming at them. Then she told him the traffic light was green, and the car driver just used the horn. Riku realized he was mistaken, so he apologized to her, saying he thought something crashed into something. Iona figured it was fine since he was protecting her back then, and he agreed that was right, but he was still worried about what he did. To which Iona reassured him she wasn't mad or anything, and she thanked him for trying to save her. However, later when she was taking a relaxing bath at home, Iona was feeling all flustered remembering the hug, and he even hugged her a little tighter. Still, to think he risked his life to save her made Iona's heart beat so incredibly fast. Meanwhile, Haruno on the other hand was crying because when she was outside returning to home, she saw Rika hugging Iona from behind, and seeing them being so close to each other made her extremely emotionally upset, as she declared Riku was such a liar. The next morning at Iona's house, she was having trouble waking up Riku because he was sleeping deep, which made her wonder how he woke up by himself on other days. Suddenly Riku woke up, and she asked him to brush his teeth, wash his face, and hurry up before he got late for school. Whereas Rika was finding it all so strangely nostalgic living with Iona, even if it was a little awkward for some reason. They even have matching cups which make him feel like they were a couple living together. Once she was ready, she gave him a bento she made for him and asked to have breakfast quickly. Rika smiled as he saw a homely breakfast made by a Jaru after praying thanks for the food. He dug right in, and it was absolutely delicious. Iona noticed he hadn't brushed his hair yet, so she asked him to stay still while she fixed them for him. He wondered if this was how it felt to have their loving partner take care of them, and once she fixed them, they began eating. Later at school, Rika noticed the students weren't gossiping anymore, which means they did believe his act before. Then Iona asked him if he wasn't forgetting something, to which he first replied he didn't know, and asked if she meant a good morning kiss. She declined that wasn't it, and the students began making shocked surprise noises after hearing of the kiss. They couldn't believe these two were flirting in class. Then Iona told Riku she would have a talk with him later about this. Then he asked her what he forgot that she wanted to remind him about, to which she replied it was the bento, and Kana overheard them, and understood Iona made Riku a bento. Iona wished her good morning, and said she was making her bento, and made one for Riku as well, which made Kana think Iona was quite secretly fond of Riku. She got flustered while trying to deny it. Then Kana asked her if she was really taking this seriously. Kana said she couldn't just leave Rika behind, as it was like dumping a little puppy. And Riku realized she did see him as a puppy when he wondered about it before. Meanwhile, Riku could never tell what Haruno was thinking about. Then he noticed there was a mysterious letter on his desk. Riku read the letter telling him to come behind the school building after lunch break, and he wondered who wrote it, and thought he should go with the flow and go there later after school. He saw it was Kana who had written the letter, and Riku immediately declined that he couldn't go out with her. Kana told him he got the wrong idea, and Riku asked what was the deal then. Connor then asked him straightforwardly if everything was going well with Iona, to which Riku agreed it seemed like this. Then she asked if their relationship was for 1 month only, while mentioning that she wasn't used to being with guys. Riku stated he noticed it from the beginning. Then he asked Connor if she wanted him to break up with her. But to his surprise, she replied that Iona was lately much brighter than usual, and she thinks that Iona really likes Riku. He was surprised to hear that. Then Kana mentioned she was just making fun of Riku because he was crying during his confession. And Riku wondered if Kana called him here because she wanted to mock him. Kana then said she knew this was for 1 month, but she hoped it goes even further, which could be seen even on Iona's face. Riku didn't expect Kana to be here to genuinely root for his relationship with Iona, as she told him she was serious and that she wanted him to treat Iona well. After that, he was walking back the corridor thinking if Iona really liked him. Then Kana showed up again, asking if he was going home. She mentioned again that she was serious about what they talked about before, about him treating Iona well. He was startled by a sudden random ambush from Kana. Then Iona came and asked when did Kana and Rika get along. Kana immediately ran away saying she had something to do, and Iona asked Riku did he get along with her that much. Rika replied it wasn't like that, and said they were just talking during the break time. Iona asked what they were talking about, and Rika came out clear that there was nothing to hide, and they were actually talking about her. Iona felt like Iona acted like she was her mom, and the fact Riku was already calling her by her first name was weird, but she shook it off, whereas Rika wondered what he should do after what Connor told him, because now it feels kind of awkward talking to Iona. Later on the way, Iona asked him what was wrong since he seemed uneasy, and he reasoned with a startled face that he was the same as ever, but she could tell he didn't sound like usual. Then Riku asked her a sudden, unexpected question. Was there someone she liked? And she exclaimed with nervousness, why did he ask that now? Riku stated since they were living together, he wanted to hear her out. She mentioned there might be somebody, and she didn't know it yet, because it was the first time she had felt like this. And when he asked who it was, she replied she didn't feel like she could tell him just yet. Then suddenly her legs slipped, and Rico held her hand to help her stop from falling. He asked her if she was okay, to which she replied with a yes, and got away saying she wouldn't talk to him if he pried too much. He apologized to her, and she told him not to feel down. Rico replied he didn't feel down, but she could swear he just had the face of a puppy after being called out like that. He asked her how that face was again. Then she asked him for a hand like a puppy, and Rika happily played along with her. She remarked he was so funny, and they should head back now, and in between Iona took him to a cafe, where she often comes with her friends. She ordered a large massive sundae for themselves, and Rico asked her if she could eat it all. She wasn't sure, but wanted to try it out of curiosity anyway. So she ordered it without thinking twice, and now since it was too big for her, she couldn't eat it alone. So she gave him one spoon, and asked why don't he eat with her. Rika thought this wasn't something that real actual couples do, and now that he was aware of it, he couldn't control his hand trembling. And when he looked at her, she was making his heart beat faster, and he wondered why was he feeling that way for her, when Haruno was supposed to be the only one for him. Meanwhile, someone quietly looked at them from outside the cafe, and it turned out to be Haruno, who found them on her way home. She felt like Riku and Ayana were flirting way too much, and she even made Rika give her his hand like a puppy, and this was way too emotionally premature of Riku to do things like that. At that time, she recalled when Riku used to feel like he was the only one alive, and Haruno had been there for him. She suddenly realized that after seeing Riku with another girl and having a great time, she was feeling deeply upset and couldn't get the image of him hugging her from behind out of her mind. Haruno recalled Riku had always been by her side, and now she thought how could he smile like that with another girl. She felt like everything happened because she rejected him, and tears started coming out without stopping. Then she saw them going out, which made her think if they were going to the station. And after following them, Haruno ended up finding out that Riku was actually secretly living with Ayana. She even waited outside for some time, and realized they hadn't come out, which confirmed that this was how Riku was spending his time with Ayana. And this was what he did when those two were alone. She wondered what they were doing right now while thinking of the confession he made to Haruno. Haruno questioned herself, why was she crying since they have been friends forever, and that would remain the same. And if it wasn't like that, she would live to be beside Riku for her entire life. She finally realized her feelings for Riku, and thought if she could still somehow make it in time. She considered what could be her chances, given that he had confessed to Ayana a couple days before. Meanwhile, inside Iona's house, Haruno had brought the clothes which dried, and he was looking carefully at Iona's inner clothes. She slammed her hand on his head, asking what he was looking at, and warned that she would cut him into pieces. Rico asked her if she thought it was that easy, then Iona just took her inside, and told him not to do that again. They were glad that they picked up clothes in time, because it had started raining, and Iona mentioned the rain was much harder than usual. Then Rika told her if a man and a woman start living together, these kinds of situations were naturally bound to happen. To which she asked him if he had to look at her inner intensely. He got quiet, and she teased why don't he just admit only guys do this. Then Reika mentioned she also looked at his inner intensely, and she excused it because she was just going to iron them at that time. Iona had nothing to say in her defense, and she quickly embarrassedly blushed while saying sorry to him. Ruka claimed that since he was so generous, he would be willing to forgive her. Then she mentioned it felt like something was missing, and Rika's phone started ringing, and it turned out to be a call from Haruno's mother. She asked him if Haruno was there, to which Riku replied he wasn't at his house, and asked her if something was wrong. Haruno's mother told him she was missing and wasn't answering her calls. Rika got seriously worried, because it was already 10 p.m. now, and if she wasn't back then she might be in trouble. Her mother also checked with other friends of Haruno, but they didn't know anything either, so her mother decided to go to the police. Iona mentioned she also heard about Haruno's missing, and even if it was raining really hard out there. Rika stated he had to go, and even if he didn't know where to look he wanted to go and find Haruno. Iona gave her umbrella to him and told him to take care of himself, after which he quickly headed out of the home in this heavy downpour. Riko could see it was so incredibly windy outside, and he figured Haruno might be in trouble, as she wasn't with any of her friends. He decided to take the train to her house and look for her. Then suddenly he noticed there was someone sitting by the pole on the other end of the road. He went to check on that person and realized it was actually Haruno. She also noticed Riku as he asked her what she was doing here in this rain. She wondered that herself, then told him that today she noticed a lot of painful things. Rika told her they need to get to a warmer, safer place soon. Then she asked him if he was happy with Ayana. She said sorry for saying these things out of the blue, and still remembers his confession. She apologized for saying such incredibly cruel things, and if she were him, she would have not wanted to live. Haruno told her if being with Ayana makes him happy, then he has no use for her, and requested him to forget about her. As she fell unconscious, Riku tried telling her to get a grip on herself, after which he carried her to Iona's home and asked her what they should do. Iona asked him what happened to Haruno, and he replied she was close by just sitting out in the rain. Iona calmed him down and said they have to hear her out and she would bring a towel. He requested her to be really quick while trying to get Haruno conscious. Haruno slightly opened her eyes asking where she was, and he replied they were currently in Iona's house. Then Iona brought the towel, and she was glad to see Haruno was awake again. Iona told Haruno to take a warm bath first, otherwise she could catch a cold. Then Rika started helping Haruno take off her clothes, and she was startled by his sudden actions. She asked him what he was doing, and Iona also intervened quickly and called him a total pervert. She called him the worst to do this to a sick girl, and Rika stated they got it wrong, and he was just getting Haruno to take a bath quickly. Iona said she would take care of it now, and Haruno told Riko he got too carried away. After that, Riko went and updated Haruno's mother about the situation, then went on to check if Haruno was better now. It was when he heard Haruno and Iona talking about him, especially how he seems like a puppy, and Riko got that he has absolutely no respect around here. After the bath, Haruno changed into Iona's clothes, and Riko asked her if she's better now. Haruno replied she was better, but still in a daze. Then he told her not to exert herself. She told him he was too emotionally overprotective, and Iona teased them by saying Rika surely likes Haruno. After that, Iona decided to stay at Mondo's place while Haruno and Riku could use her house, since it seems like they both have a lot of things to talk about. She assured him he could sort it out and tell her what happens later. Soon, Haruno got to talk with her mother, and she was really angry, and Riko added that her mother even went to the police. She felt bad to have troubled everyone, and he stated it was more of worries than trouble. Then he asked her why she was out there in the first place. Haruno replied honestly that she was following him, and when she saw him getting along a lot with Iona, she got mad. Haruno claimed to have not noticed it at the beginning, but now she knows how she truly feels about Riku. He was shocked that this topic was brought up so suddenly when he was going out with Iona. He tried telling her that wasn't the case, but she found it impossible since they were living together, and either way she felt the need to say that seeing Riku with another woman irritates her to the point that she would literally cry about it. She admitted that she really likes Riku a lot and wanted to be by his side, not just as his childhood friend, but as his girlfriend. Rika stated it was true that she had been by his side since the accident. Then she mentioned he knew it all better, along with the fact that he didn't look at any girl other than her, as if they were alone in this world. She now felt like she was already in love with Riko even before knowing these feelings, and now she made it clear that she wanted to be the only one for him, and didn't want him to be stolen by Iona. However, she said if he already chose Iona, she would just quietly bear her pain. Riko told her they weren't going out, then she asked him why he kept lying, and he corrected that they really weren't going out. Haruno questioned then why he stayed at her house. He said that would be a pretty long story, and she didn't mind hearing it all. He told her everything about what happened after being rejected by her, and she got visibly upset, while Rika tried to tell her there was no need to worry about it anymore. She said out loud that she was indeed worried about him, and he made her worry about him even more now. She stated that when she was alone she started thinking about what she could do for him, and how she could heal Rika's heart. It was all because she was so emotionally hard on him, and now how could she not worry about him as she cried? It was Rika's first time seeing Haruno cry, while Haruno couldn't forgive herself, even if he forgave her. Rika tried calming her down, saying the important thing here was that he was alive, but she was more worried about the fact that if it wasn't for Ayana he would be dead. He almost died because of her. She couldn't emotionally take it, and she should be the one to die instead. Rika told her not to ever seriously say something like that, and he was glad that he didn't take that step. He told her what was important right now was that he liked her a lot, and she also admitted that she has spent most of her life by his side. Haruno admitted that during his confession she was just trying to keep them as they were, for which she was deeply sorry for, and now she looked at Riku with a clear mind about him being the one she wanted. Riku also looked back in her eyes, and they were about to kiss each other, but suddenly Ayana popped unexpectedly up in his mind, and he slowly pushed Haruno away. She asked him what was wrong, and he said sorry for this. She realized that Ayana must have popped into his mind, and said she assured him it was alright if he liked Ayana. She was annoyed slightly a little that those two were very close, and got so jealous without thinking, making her realize how possessive she was. Rika wasn't sure what to say now, then she assured him that he didn't have to answer right now, and he also needed to stay here because of that stalker problem. However, she asked him, why didn't he sleep in a kennel instead of the same room as Ayana? Because she'd hate it if he were with another girl, since she likes him. Now he seemed a bit emotionally lost, and she decided to wait until he had a clear answer. Rika thought it through that Ayana was the one who saved his life, and Haruno was the one who supported him whole life. Haruno was glad for now that they told each other what they wanted, which was a great important step forward, and even if he chose Ayana, she wouldn't get mad, but would surely be jealous and cry a lot, while he didn't get what kind of threat that was. Meanwhile, Iona wondered if they were already secretly going out, and if Riku was the reason Haruno disappeared. She could feel that they were getting closer, and she felt uneasy when they were alone. Iona thought it was important that they were going out, and they were made for each other, while she didn't even come close. And when she thought about them, she could only think about Riku, which made her finally suddenly realize that she likes Rika too. After some time, Haruno's mother came to get Haruno, and they thanked Iona for letting her stay. Iona then talked to Riku and told him that he didn't have to come here anymore now that he was going out with Haruno. Riku asked her if she didn't want him to come over, and she replied nervously it had nothing to do with her. After that, he closed in and asked Iona if she liked him. She got visibly flustered and asked what he was talking about. Then he mentioned she was especially kind to him. She told him not to get the wrong idea, and that was his imagination, and he realized that she didn't like him then. Iona told him to stop worrying about her, and he should go with Haruno, and he replied that he owes his life to Iona. She felt like it would be a mess if he stayed here just because of that, and she mustered up the courage to lie that she actually honestly hates him a lot. Riku understood and said it was okay, and she could hate him as much as she wanted, but he would still protect her. She felt flustered and quickly hid under her bed to keep her face from showing. But then she found something and brought out the manga that Mondo gave to Rika before. Iona was absolutely furious to see it, and Rika said he could explain, but she just handed it to him and told him to get out of here. He ended up being thrown out, and on the way he met Mondo. She asked him where he was going this late, to which he replied that he actually got kicked out by Iona, and explained the reason was Mondo's manga. She laughed casually it off, and asked how long it would take him to get home. He replied that it would be 3 hours, which shocked her, and she asked why don't he stay with her then. Riku expressed his honest concern that he was worried about her doing something to him, after which he set out on his way. She stopped him and said she stopped by Iona's house a moment ago, and when she rang the bell, Iona was in a hurry and was a little sad too. Mondo thinks Iona was waiting for Riku to come back, so he should hurry back to her because if something bad happens to him, his loved ones would suffer. Meanwhile, Iona was a little emotionally sad that Rika really left, and she looked at her family photo, which made her feel more sad while feeling like she was forgetting something. Then her doorbell rang, and Iona went to check while thinking it might be Riku. But when she opened the door, it turned out to be an adult in a hood, seeing which Iona was extremely terrified, scared of this unknown person. Whereas this person actually secretly knew Iona, and he asked her how dare she ignore him and bring over such a useless man, referring to Riku. He shouted at her to tell him, why did she do that when she always had him, as he made her fall down and held her arms. He claimed now that bastard Riku doesn't seem to be around anymore. It means Iona was his now. While Iona recognized this was the stalker, as she desperately tried to push him away. The stalker suddenly put his hands on Iona, and he was about to do bad things to her, while she cried out and wished someone would help her. Then at the same time, Riku came running, and he punched the absolute crap out of that stalker in the face. Iona's eyes instantly brightened up with hope after seeing Riku, as he began punching the stalker in anger at what he tried to do to Iona. He even started violently strangling the stalker, and Iona knew she needed to stop him. So she quickly told him to stop because if he kept doing that, she would really hate it. She didn't want to see the person she likes to suffer. And if he kept strangling that stalker, she would be unhappy. Rico asked her if she didn't hate him already, to which she replied she actually truly likes him a lot and doesn't wish for him to become a murderer. Soon they called the police and they arrested the stalker, after which Rico was about to say sorry to her, but she suddenly tightly hugged him and asked him to let her be for now. She was glad that Rico was okay, and before she had thought about restraining her feelings because of his mutual love with Haruno, as she wanted him to be happy, but she couldn't forget it, and he even helped her out with the stalker. She couldn't emotionally take it anymore now, and said sorry for doing this when he was going out with Haruno. He told her that he wasn't going out with Haruno. Then she asked him if those two don't love each other. Riku replied it wasn't like that, and there was a good reason behind it, which was that Iona was the one he liked, and he wanted her to be happy, and especially wanted to be by her side. So from now on he expressed his honest wish to live here in her house, and all of this was just sudden like a dream come true for her. She asked if this was a confession, and what about Haruno? Rika stated he knew he couldn't leave Iona alone, so from now on he wanted to protect her. Then she complained that he also needed her to wake him up every day and make him breakfast. Riku agreed he couldn't be without her, so he requested her to go out with him. Iona happily agreed to his heartfelt proposal, saying she would be in his care from now on. After that, they were in Iona's bedroom both feeling awkwardly nervous until Rika said he wanted to try those things like the adult manga to her. She was surprised with how he was way too frank about it and said don't they need to know each other better for that. And that aside, she asked him why he came back, to which he replied that he just had a feeling that he forgot some stuff here. Then he mentioned they haven't talked to each other about their past, and she expressed to want to know more about him, and him to know more about her the same. Rika mentioned she must have been a calm, quiet girl during middle school. Then she replied not remembering much about before with a sad face, and stated that she wanted to get rid of her old self. Then he asked her what her parents were like, to which she replied they were way too incredibly nice, which Rico could feel when he saw that photo of her with family. She mentioned that her parents were also overprotective, and she also liked driving around with them. Rico asked more about it. Then she stated they used to hang out a lot, because her dad was a big car fan, and they went to many different places on their free days. It used to be really genuinely fun. But when she tried to remember high schoolers, she felt weird, as if something was wrong with her memory, and she couldn't remember a thing about that time. Suddenly, she had a painful sudden headache as she shouted out loud, and he asked her what happened while trying to calm her. At the same time, Wando suddenly came over and said she would take care of her, while she asked Rika to wait at her place and gave him the key. After some time, Wando returned to her place after getting Iona to sleep. Rika was relieved, glad to hear that. Then he asked her why she has keys to Iona's apartment, to which she replied she was manager of this building and Iona was actually her cousin, so she should have her key. Rika figured if she was her cousin, she should know what happened to Iona, and Wando agreed to that, saying this was the third time. She mentioned it has been a while since last time, so she let her guard down and asked him if those two talked about cars, her past, or suicide. Rika replied they did talk about her parents and driving around in their car, and he asked her to tell him if she knew something. Wando told him he might regret seriously asking that, to which he replied it doesn't matter. She gave him an incredibly important warning that the way he currently see her would completely change after hearing it, because Iona's parents had actually brutally committed suicide. Rika told her not to lie to him, because Iona told him they were on a business trip overseas. Then she quietly mentioned that was how Iona mentally copied it. It was a tragic case. When one happens to go through a deeply traumatic event, they slowly rewrite their memories, and in reality Iona's parents died about 3 years ago when she was in middle school. Riku asked why they did it, to which she sadly replied it was perhaps out of guilt, because when they were coming back from a trip, they accidentally caused an accident. Riku asked what about the victim, and she emotionally said they died. And since Iona's parents were genuinely good people, the overwhelming feeling of having killed someone was too much for them, and when they committed suicide, Iona horrifyingly saw them, hanging by the neck with her own eyes when she came back from school. Rika was surprised by this unbelievably heavy past she had been carrying, as Wando continued that it was too much for Iona, that she got severely depressed, and everything in her house reminded her of her parents. That's why she started to live by herself. And thus, Wando ended up being her guardian, and slowly, Iona started to get better, at the cost of emotionally overriding her memories about her parents. She changed her looks into a flashy, stylish Jaro, but her heart remained the same, and it was like a psychological defense mechanism, where she was flashy on the outside, but modest on the inside. Rika then asked what happened to the family of the victim, to which Wando quietly replied they were a family of 4, with 2 parents, 1 daughter, and 1 son. And their son, who was in middle school, was the only one who survived. This came out as a truly real shock to Riku, because one day when he was walking back with his family, he noticed his shoes and stopped to tie them back. Then suddenly a car came crashing in and violently hit his parents and sister. The drivers of the car stopped by to check on the victims, and Rika still vividly remembered the faces of those guys as he realized something seemed weird. He wished for it to be anyone except Iona, but no matter how much he tried to deny it, Rico painfully recalled now it was definitely Iona he saw that day, and it was his family who were killed by Iona's parents. This unbelievably shocking news that his parents were killed by Iona's parents was too painful for him, and he didn't remember how, and when he came back to his house, he still couldn't emotionally believe the truth. Then Haruno came to ask him if he was awake. He asked her how she entered, to which she replied the door wasn't locked, and Rika seemed to be down, so she was worried about him because he also missed school. She also felt a little emotionally mad because she sent him a message asking if something was wrong, but he didn't reply because he was sleeping. She brought some warm things for him to eat and went cooking for him. He realized she was doing so much for his sake and sincerely thanked her for preparing the meal for him. He mentioned she seemed happy, to which she replied it feels great seeing him enjoy her meal. Rika said it was obvious since her cooking was really great, which made her happy. Rika noticed this peaceful, comforting time with Haruno was what he always wanted. But he had to ask her something, so he asked her if she knew about Iona. Her expression immediately changed to gloomy, and he asked her again to tell him if she knew what happened. Haruno mentioned if he remembered the accident, and he quietly agreed while adding that he learned that Iona's parents were the culprits. Haruno was genuinely shocked to learn that, and he asked her if she didn't know about them already. Haruno mentioned she wasn't completely sure, and she only knew their surnames, so she tried to separate Riku from Iona before, because it seemed like she didn't remember, and her parents also killed themselves. Riku stated he learned it all from the landlady, and Haruno mentioned that must have been emotionally tough for him. So she offered to be his support, which made him glad to see she was always thinking about him and cheering him up. He realized that he couldn't completely erase these romantic feelings, so Rika told Haruno that he thought that he still liked her. She was surprised to see him having a sudden change of mind, as Rika told her that he always thought about going out with her and starting a family. Then Haruno mentioned he already has Iona, and he admitted that he likes Iona, but this unbearable pain was all caused by Iona, and her existence constantly feeds his pain. When he thought about her, her parents violently running over his parents was what came to his mind each time. Then Haruno asked if he was worried about her. Rika said he was of course deeply worried, and he did like her after all, but he couldn't take it anymore. And to think it all started because of her made him feel emotionally done with it. So he asked Haruno if she would go out with him, since he only has her and his whole life centers entirely around her. He asked if she was still truly in love with him, to which she admitted she still was, and she only desired his happiness, but if she saw him talking to other girls, she would get mad. She let him know this was the kind emotionally jealous of girls she was, and asked if he was okay with that. Rika thanked her for accepting him, and for always genuinely being by his side, to which she told him not to worry about it, and if he wanted, she would always remain exactly the same by his side. Next morning, Rika woke up feeling his body was a little strangely heavy, and apparently Haruno was sleeping beside him, and she woke up at the same time. He wished her good morning, and asked her to be gentle while tightly hugging her. She said it was fine since they have always slept like this when they were kids, and she asked him if like it. Suddenly, she realized they needed to get up, or else they would be seriously late for school. Later at the school, Connor noticed Iona didn't come to school again, and she asked Riku if she told him something. He said sorry because he could barely say it, which made Kana worry even more. After that, Rika met up with Haruno and said he wanted to go somewhere before they go home. She replied it had been a really long time since they went to the game center together. So they went there, and Haruno asked Riku to stay close because it was quite crowded. She also didn't think she could trust him not to get lost, so she came up with the cute idea to hold hands. Riku reminisced that he held hands with Ayana in the game center too, after which Haruno suggested they play air hockey. He agreed to her while being a little emotionally nervous, and after an intense exchange, she bet the one to score next would be the winner. He replied that wasn't how it works, then recalled how Ayana claimed that she was called Ice Hockey Princess. When he was lost deeply in thoughts, Haruno saw it as her chance to score, and at that time he recalled that just like how Haruno was standing on the other side, Ayana was there as well. Haruno was happily cheered up after getting to score finally, while Rika felt like he was constantly thinking about Ayana when he was with Haruno. Haruno asked him what happened, and wondered if he was surprised that she scored. But Rika replied that wasn't the case with visibly sad eyes. Then Haruno said she would make sure those eyes would never be sad again. So after they went back home, Rika was taking a shower thinking that he should completely get over Ayana and shouldn't care about her anymore. Then Haruno entered the bathroom and said they should shower together, and she was apparently wearing her swimsuit. Rika was startled by her sudden, unexpected intrusion. Then he told her she looked very cute. She was glad to hear that, and mentioned she had put a lot of careful thought into this. Rika was feeling incredibly nervous because he could see her body, and he tried to stay focused until she suggested they wash each other like they did as kids. He told her they weren't kids anymore, and she called him a total pervert for thinking so much about this. After that they went to sleep, and Rick had dreamed of his sister, who didn't wait for him when he tied his shoes and went ahead having fun. Then suddenly the tragic accident happened and took the lives of his whole family. Rika suddenly woke up from this horrible nightmare, and Haruno comforted him, asking if he saw them again. Riko asked her if they could sleep like this while hugging, and thanked her for kindly agreeing to it. He was glad Haruno was there, and as the time passed by their summer break started. But Iona hadn't come to school all this time. Riko was on his way back home after buying cold ice cream. Then he got suddenly called out by Kana, and Rika mentioned she looked quite different. She asked what he meant by that, to which he replied she wasn't wearing her pretty school uniform. Kana couldn't get how he could say all this so freely, and he even called her by first name. Riku apologized and said that he actually didn't know her surname, which surprised her, and she claimed to not know his surname either, even if she called him Kiramine each time. She mentioned he must have heard completely wrong, and he realized that she really hates losing, and she could tell him her surname if it bothers her. She denied it, and Rika figured he would get going then. Then Konda mentioned that she actually wanted to talk to him about something, after which they went to a quiet park and sat on a bench. Kona asked him to sit closer and mentioned it was about Ayana, and she asked him if he had called her. Reika replied he didn't, and Kona asked if he could tell her what happened between him and Iona, because when she went to Iona's house, she was such an emotional mess and her eyes looked red. She stayed the night with Iona, and in her sleep, Iona kept tearfully telling Riku to forgive her. So she asked Riku what happened, or if they fought, and now Riku was with Haruno. He asked her how was Iona after that, to which she replied that Iona moved away, and she said she was thinking of quitting school. He was genuinely surprised by that. Then Kana got up and said she would be waiting for him at 6 a.m. at the station, and they would go see her together. Riku refused he won't go. Then Kana told him that he was the only one who could truly save Iona, as she walked away with the decision upon him. Later at home, Riko was thinking deeply. Then Hirono barged suddenly upon him, and said his cute childhood friend was here. Why won't he look at her? She could tell Rika seemed so worried, and she just wanted him to be happy. And she could tell he was worried about something related to Iona. He figured she surely knew him pretty incredibly well, and he stated that he didn't know what he should do. Haruno asked him if he still liked Iona, to which he replied with a quiet yes, which got her a little mad, and he felt awkward to say that right to her. She laughed softly it off, saying she could finally hear his true feelings, and he said sorry, but he just couldn't get over her. She told him he needed to go see Iona, but he reasoned that he liked her. Then Haruno told him that was a lie, and she asked him to remember Iona, and the time he was with her. He seemed to be having genuine fun, and Haruno claimed that she loved him a lot. So she got bothered when he talked to other girls, but his happiness was her priority. So he was free to do anything, and even his name Rika means flying bravely through the sky. Thus he shouldn't cry now, and he told her she was crying also. She stated it was completely fine to cry when one gets their heart broken. And after her cheerful supportive words, Rika decided he would go see Iona and thanked Haruno for her support. After that he went running to the station and saw Kana standing there for him. She mentioned he was late and reek of sweat, and he said sorry to her, while stating they should now head out to see Iona. Kana mentioned he somehow seemed quite emotionally different. He was surprised she could tell he got a haircut. Kana exclaimed that wasn't the case. Then Rika mentioned he feels different now, as if he was like a completely new person. Kana could agree since he seemed scared before. Now he thanked Kona to come along with him to see Iona, and in the way she asked him if he could tell her what happened between those two. Kona wanted to know it because she just wanted to help and stated she would be here if he needed anything to talk about. Riko asked her why would she do that, to which Connor replied it was because she genuinely cared about him and Iona. After hearing which he agreed to tell Conan and explained everything that happened. And at the emotional end of it all, Conan began crying because this just wasn't right and a really deeply sad reality. Kana brushed away her tears while insisting she wasn't crying as Riko quietly offered her a tissue. His simple gesture easing the atmosphere, and before long her shaky sadness transformed into unwavering resolve as she lifted her fists with clear determination, declaring she would do everything in her power to help him. Kana sprang to her feet with renewed determination, raising her fists as she declared she would stand by his side and do whatever she could to help them. While Rika looked on in quiet surprise and asked, "Help me?" His gentle expression of thanks brought the moment to a warm close. Then her attention settled with Kana truly thinking about her friends. Riku arrived at the peaceful hilltop and muttered, "Huff, made it," while Kana extended her arm toward the tranquil scenery surrounding them, her cheerful mood changing the atmosphere. Then her eyes opened wide as Rika mentioned there were a lot of bugs, prompting her to comment, "So you get scared too?" Surprised by his casual smile before he replied, "Everybody has a weakness," leaving Rika glancing back with a quiet, "What if?" The pair remained beneath the trees, surrounded by a peaceful yet curious atmosphere. And as they continued forward, a gentle voice called out, "You are Kiramine-san?" The elderly woman spoke in a weary voice as she introduced herself by saying, "I'm Hashimiya, Iona's grandmother," then continued by admitting, "We thought Kana-san would be the only one coming. But you came too." Her gaze lowered as she added she knew he probably shouldn't be here. Kana responded with a quiet sorry, only for the woman to soften and reply no. She was grateful for everything they had done. While Connor pointed out Iona was inside the house, Riku answered that he knew the way there, "Thanks," turning the moment into a short, uneasy silence as they prepared to head inside. Iona called out from the porch with cheerful excitement, saying, "Kana, it's been a while, I missed you," her smile spreading across her face as she hurried over and wrapped Kana in a hug, whispering long time no see while holding tightly onto her hands with heartfelt relief. Conan returned the embrace with gentle warmth as Iona's voice quivered through the words, "I'm so happy to see you," turning their reunion into a gentle yet joyful moment as they stood surrounded by flowers and sunlight, their long-awaited meeting finally becoming reality. Iona turned toward Kana with a gentle smile, asking, "Are you having fun?" her calm voice drifting across the peaceful garden. And Kana answered more or less while Iona admitted she had been confused at first, but was enjoying herself now, even saying you would enjoy this place too. Then Iona stepped closer with a gentle sparkle in her eyes, offering "Nice to meet you" to Riku, her tone courteous and welcoming, only for the atmosphere to suddenly change as she unexpectedly asked, "Are you Kana's boyfriend?" leaving Riku completely stunned. Iona stepped closer with a bright smile, saying, "This is the first time we've met," her relaxed attitude brushing aside Kana's embarrassed, "What are you saying?" as she tried to stop the misunderstanding. Riku replied with composed ease, introducing himself as Kuramine Riku, from your class, and Iona froze in disbelief, blurting out "Same class" while immediately apologizing. Rika maintained his calm demeanor, saying, "Don't worry, he doesn't really stand out." Iona lowered her head with a trembling voice, saying, "I'm really sorry," while Rika calmly raised a hand and reassured her, "Don't worry, it's not your fault." She continued trying to understand, saying, "Really, but same class," her confusion deepening as he remained composed. Then the scene shifted outside the house, where she quietly whispered, "But why you?" before admitting, "I knew Kana would come," turning the moment into a brief blend of apology, purpose, and silent tension between them. Iona asked, "How have you been feeling?" while facing the quiet yard, followed by Rika's composed reply, "I came as a representative for the guys," causing her to step back with slight hesitation. Iona spoke with a gentle smile, saying, "Well, I had a pretty high fever and felt somewhat depressed." then steadied herself by adding, "As you can see, everything is fine now," even promising she would return to school after summer break ended. Kana's concern grew stronger as she mentioned dropping out, and Iona immediately shook her head, answering she was fine, while Kana explained she would tell the school everything, so there was no need to worry. Then Rika watched in silence as a thought crossed his mind. This is how she rewrites her reality, turning the moment into a delicate blend of comfort and concern. Iona stood with a respectful nod, saying Kuraman-kun will also stay overnight, right? While Kona assured her yes, he would be staying under her care before mentioning she needed to greet the people living there. Then Rika listened as Iona softly spoke about Soida-san, saying she was a kind person, and it seemed they had caused her a great deal of trouble. Kona leaned in, reminding him, "Do you remember what we talked about on the train? That she's changing her memories." And Rika's confusion appeared in a quiet "What did she mean?" She said she wouldn't drop out, until Kana explained it's because she wants to erase the accident from her mind. The three of them stood before the old house, the truth settling heavily between them. Kana's voice became tense as she asked why Hashimiya wants to forget it, and Riku answered yes before briefly explaining if it's something too painful to endure, you'll end up forgetting everything else too. His calm voice remaining steady, while Iona's suffering lingered between them. Kana tried to reason it must have been something incredibly painful, and she simply couldn't endure it, right? But when Riko admitted not really, "But I have to think about the future," her shock burst into, "It can't be. I don't want that." Then the scene shifted inside the quiet house, as a knock-knock echoed throughout the room, followed by a gentle come in, leaving the tense conversation hanging at the entrance. Iona approached with a calm gaze, asking if she could ask something, and Kana answered with a steady yeah as Iona admitted she wanted to ask about Kuramine-kun, believing Kana gets along with him. Iona's tone turned curious as she added that Kana and Riko call each other by their first names and seem close, even suggesting the two are dating, while Kona burst out with no, impossible, declaring she doesn't like anything about him at all. Iona, still confused, asked if Kana actually despises him, but Kana stumbled through that's a secret before trying to explain it's more like the two of them are helping each other, leaving Iona frozen as she processed the sight of Kana getting along so well with someone for the first time. Iona lifted her hand with a calm smile, stating that Riku and she are not in love and that it will never happen, telling Kana not to worry. Kana froze with wide eyes as Iona added that Riku is very popular with girls and might even have a girlfriend. The word struck Kana so suddenly that her face dimmed, her shoulders sinking as she whispered a girlfriend, expected as much, and Kana forced out a weak laugh, trying to hide the sting as the moment settled heavy between them, only for Iona to burst into a bright laugh and admit it's a joke, claiming Riku doesn't have a girlfriend and that she was just teasing. Iona puffed her cheeks in frustration, demanding why Kana would lie about that. The sudden shift left Kana frozen, replaying the words "he doesn't have a girlfriend" as Iona watched calmly, and Kana's expression softened into a quiet "I see" while her thoughts flickered back to a hesitant, as the moment settled with a mix of relief and lingering confusion. Riko lay in silence, his thoughts spiraling as he muttered that Hashimiya completely forgot about him. Convinced she thought she was sick with a high fever and taking a break from school to recover, the belief sinking into a heavy thought that she doesn't need him and that he might be a burden, an obstacle to her happiness. His hand hovered in the dim light as he wondered if life could return to peace if he stopped getting involved with Hashimiya, only for a sudden knock to break the stillness. Kana stepped in, her eyes steady as she asked what he wanted, then stated she had been thinking about various things, her voice firm as she explained that Iona manipulated her memories and that she thought about the reason, her presence cutting through Rika's spiraling doubts with a quiet, unwavering resolve. His voice low as he claimed his presence was causing suffering to Hashimiya. Rika stood with a tense look, stating he would go home tomorrow, the thought pressing hard enough that he lowered his gaze and repeated that distancing himself from Hashimiya was the right decision, that if forgetting him made her happy, then it was okay, leaving just no other way. Kana's expression tightened, her worry clear as she asked if Rika was okay with that, her voice firm yet shaken as she watched him turn further into resignation. Kana stepped closer, startled as she asked about Iona, only for Riku to answer that he just talked to Iona, his tone flat while the old clock ticked behind him. Kana stepped forward with rising urgency, her voice shaking as she revealed that Iona's affection for Rico hadn't disappeared, that her romantic feelings still remained even after she altered her memories, leaving Kana stunned as she whispered about those feelings. Kana's expression tightened, remembering how Iona couldn't bear the guilt, how she erased her memories, but couldn't erase her feelings for Riku. Her voice broke into a desperate plea as she declared that Rico had to be there for her, that he was the one she loved the most, her hand reaching out in frustration when Rico faltered. Rico's eyes lowered, the breath trembling as he admitted he wanted to save her, only for Kanan to snap sharply, asking if Rico wasn't here to save Iona, pushing him to face the truth he had been avoiding. Rika stood tense as Iona's words echoed in the air about an opportunity, while Kanan pushed forward with sharp urgency, saying he could go out again and get closer again, her voice filled with stubborn drive as Rika fired back that he came to save her after all, their clash looking like a heated quarrel. His thoughts roared with "there's still something that can be done, and not here to bring her misfortune." His determination hardening as quietly faded inside from the pressure, approached with a soft, hesitant heart, saying she would start over and confess once again. And Rika breathed out a shaken but sincere "Kana, thank you," as all three were pulled into a fragile but hopeful plan. Then Kana stepped in with a strange smile, declaring Operation Riku and Iona back together begins, promising to do her best and help. And Riku answered with steady resolve, "Let's do our best," ready to move forward. Iona leaned over Riku with gentle urgency, calling Kurumine-kun and telling him it is morning. "Wake up," her serious face inches from his as he slowly opened his eyes. Her soft voice continued with school, pushing him to get up, and Riku, still half asleep, let out a playful "give me a good morning kiss then," a line he used to say after living together for 3 days, a thought that drifted through him as he watched her freeze in shock. Iona burst with a flustered, cheeks puffed and bright, while Riku imagined her kicking him and telling him to stop talking nonsense and get up while blushing, a picture that made her even cuter in his mind. But Iona stayed silent, confused and embarrassed, and Riku lifted his head slightly, staring at her still face and wondering, "Nothing?" Riku snapped awake in confusion, staring around the room and asking, "Where am I? What's happening?" Only for panic to hit as the clock chimed, and he tumbled from the bed as Iona stood frozen nearby. Rika rushed in with a sharp "Hashimiya, you're wrong," her voice cutting through the chaos as she insisted Hashimiya has no memories, trying to stop the misunderstanding swirling between them. His voice softened into "I remembered the old times. I was still sleepy." Iona clutched her chest, flustered and trembling as she repeated "old times? With your girlfriend? You asked for a good morning kiss," her cheeks burning while Riku held his head, unable to say that it wasn't another girl when it was her. During breakfast, Riku sat across from Iona's parents, giving a small nod when asked if he slept well, while Iona leaned forward with a gentle offer, asking if Kurumine-kun would like some more. Kana noticed and quietly asked what was wrong, and Iona held her dress with a soft blush, insisting it was nothing. The simple kindness made Rika's hand tense, his nerves tightening whenever Hashimiya came close, even as he tried to keep calm. Iona leaned close with a soft smile, handing a spoon to Riku as he murmured a flustered "thank you," both faces turning red the moment their fingers brushed, a warmth rising between them that neither could hide. Kana stepped in with a puzzled stare, asking why their faces were red, while Iona tried to stay calm, insisting nothing unusual, even as her voice shook. Rika touched his hand, remembering the warmth when they touched, and Iona's mother teased lightly, saying he always looked red and must be sick, call him a playboy type with a knowing look. Iona suddenly froze, whispering Hashimiya with trembling eyes, and as she apologized, saying sorry today was a bit odd, Rika watched her slip away toward her room, her steps unsteady and her heart clearly shaken. Kana pressed forward with sharp curiosity, insisting she knew it, while Rika flinched under the sudden attention, denying the idea of dating anyone as his voice cracked with panic. Though he didn't play with them, Iona stepped in with a gentle stare, asking when he got his first, and Riku admitted quietly that recently, when he entered the 2nd year, it happened, pushing the thought that he left both in such a short time, confessing she knew he was popular, while Rika tried to explain it wasn't like that. Connor reacted with disbelief, claiming out of the two, one was here. Ion's smile softened the tension, her voice warm as she said don't worry, even apologizing with a shy laugh as she admitted that even though not his girlfriend, she reacted like this, her cheeks glowing as she looked at him. Hashimiya stood with cheeks warm and shy, admitting that Kuramine-kun caught her attention a bit, and even insisting she didn't mean it in a bad way. Her voice soft and flustered as her usual cute, embarrassed look returned. After dinner, Riku entered the room, only to be met by Kanan's sharp glare, as she warned him not to come in without asking. And one explanation later left Riku standing stiff with a troubled, well, as Iona's parents questioned what he did to her, noticing both looked uncomfortable. The awkward air thickened as Kanan cringed hard, sinking into frustration. Kanan watched Riku from the doorway, her mind circling around the morning kiss he tried to tease Iona with, her expression tight as she muttered that she had thought about it a bit. Iona suddenly appeared, asking for a moment, her voice gentle while Rika stiffened in nervous surprise. She mentioned she would be in the garden for the weeding, explaining that she owed him one after all, and her soft smile carried both sincerity and shyness. Kana stepped closer, asking why he was so nervous all of a sudden, only for Iona to brighten when she offered help, even though she insisted he usually hated it. Her warmth grew as she said Iona was always with the plants, and when Rico quietly agreed, she turned with confidence. He lifted a hand, offering to help too if needed, and Connor responded with a calm yes. Her gaze steady as she sought reassurance from Riku, creating a soft mix of tension and gentle promise between them. Connor quietly said the time had come, and Iona thanked them before heading out. Kanna's calm reminder about getting closer to her pushed him forward, while Iona looked back with a soft, unsure gaze, saying she saw as the moment pulled them ahead, leaving Rico staring with new determination, thinking maybe he could make amends for what happened in the morning. Iona then nervously asked Soida-san if she looked strange, and Soida replied she didn't look strange, only that Rico was acting unusual and suddenly caring about what she wore, leaving Iona watching him closely as the moment settled around them. Kana urged Riku to compliment Iona, saying it could shorten the distance between them, and Iona stood nearby looking worried about how he saw her, creating a quiet tension that Kana called another opportunity. Iona stood nervously, fingers clutching her hat as she asked how it looked, wondering if she seemed strange and fearing it doesn't suit me, her eyes shining with hope as she waited for an answer that mattered. Rekka stood frozen as Iona called to him, while her worried eyes pushed him further into panic. His face burned, words stumbling again and again, until everything burst out at once, and he finally shouted the truth he couldn't contain, declaring it very cute with all his flustered courage. Rico stood awkwardly as Kanan pointed out his simple look, her calm voice saying he looked like a supporting character, while Iona added that Kana was in a tracksuit. Kanan's mood darkened fast, snapping at Riku with a threat about a skull fracture. Kana covered her mouth with a small smile while Riku knelt in the grass, focused on something below. Iona stepped forward with bright surprise, only to slip and fall back, landing in the grass with wide. Riku walked beside Kana, asked what he was thinking, saying he seemed pretty absorbed in it, and his calm face hid the quiet line about imagining a life with Hashimiya in the countryside. Kana stared back with a flat look and admitted he'd be kinder, while Rico asked how she wanted him to say it, only for her sharp glare to strike again as the word fool hung over him. Rico listened as Iona questioned his imagination, and Connor urged him to be realistic, yet he steadied himself, saying he wanted to think about the future and be someone reliable. And when Connor quietly agreed, while Iona's soft look and the gentle line "let's work hard together" made him wonder if Hashimiya was telling him something, a fierce resolve burned through him, as he declared he would do it even if it cost his life. Rika lay in the grass after 2 hours, breathing out as he looked up and whispered that the sky was blue, realizing he had only been looking at the ground his whole life, and never knew the sky was so beautiful, while Iona stepped close with gentle concern and asked if Kuramine-kun was okay, making him answer that he was just thinking about how beautiful the blue sky is, and her soft reaction hinted that she saw him as a romantic type, as she suddenly stared in surprise. Iona invited a break and thanked Kuramine-kun for helping, while Rika sat quietly as she mentioned that Soida-san made onigiri. Iona then watched him closely, asking how long he planned to stay, and reacting softly when he said he wanted to stay as long as possible by her side, her surprised eyes meeting his as she wondered if he was worried, while Ayana apologized gently, saying the mood had been strange since earlier. Enrique lowered his head, blaming himself and thinking the strange mood was all because of what he said. Iona sat in the quiet field, her face soft with unease as she said she felt a bit strange, her gaze drifting while she mentioned strange things being said because of being half asleep. Then her eyes lowered, wondering if they hadn't met before, not at school but somewhere else, her voice trembling as she apologized for saying strange things again. And finally her expression turned tender and conflicted as she admitted a feeling that had been pressing on her heart, saying she was always thinking about him. Iona moved in close with a trembling gaze, softly calling Kuramine-kun as her hand lifted toward his face. Enrique froze in wide-eyed shock while her expression wavered between hesitation and quiet resolve. Iona leaned in with calm focus, brushing dirt from Rika's cheeks as he laughed awkwardly, and the small group settled under the open sky for a break, the countryside spreading right around them. While Connor remarked that life in the countryside felt full of free time, each of them relaxing into the quiet moment as the scenery softened their mood. Rika sat back, answering that he wasn't very interested when asked about TV. Kona asked what kind of people he liked, and Iona answered that he didn't watch much, while she quietly admitted the same, only for Kana to tease her about liking celebrities. Iona stole a small glance at Riku, flustered as Kana noticed, insisting it was just a coincidence and didn't mean anything. When Riku was asked who he liked, he looked straight ahead and said Hashimiya, shocking Iona as her face lit with surprise, asking if he meant someone like her, while Rika stumbled over his words, the air thick with sudden tension and swirling embarrassment. Kana muttered about a stupid couple, and Iona tried to recover. Rika sat with a blush while Iona offered rice, laughing as she told him he had dirt and rice on his cheek and looked like a puppy, a memory that echoed the first time she called him that. Kana teased that puppies always had food on their faces, while Iona blinked at the word puppy, puzzled, only for him to turn back and ask Hashimiya to take rice from his cheeks from now on. Then Kana pulled Riku aside, comparing the moment to the miso soup she made in the mornings. Iona froze in shock at his words, and Kana snapped that it was too early for something like that. The room filled with flustered energy and rising heat. Iona watched Kana and Kuramine standing close, a quiet what is this feeling rising as she noted that's nice for Kana. Her thoughts circled around that rice that Kuramine-kun had, cheeks warming as the memory hit. Rika turned away, thinking they just met but ended up doing something like this, leaving Iona stunned by a feeling she couldn't explain. Iona entered the quiet kitchen whispering thirsty, finding Kana awake and answering yes. Kana checked the hall, asked if Kuramine-kun was awake, then opened the fridge and offered, "Do you want some water?" Iona replied yeah and stepped closer with a steady gaze, lifting her glass and saying, "Hey, I want to ask you something," as a quiet tension filled the room. Iona stood in the dim light, eyes shining with quiet longing as she asked, "What do you think about her?" Her expression soft and uncertain, as her heart rested in that single fragile moment. Iona stepped forward with a soft, trembling look, asking, "What do you think about me?" While Rico answered calmly that she was a classmate, normally nothing more. Her steps slowed at those words, her eyes tightening with quiet confusion, and Rika looked upward, trying to form what to be done of Hashimiya, unaware of the question pressing in her heart. "Hashimiya, what are you trying to do?" While Rika watched in tense silence, wondering if she really did not like him, and telling himself that it was now or never. Iona stepped back with a soft as regret flickered across her face, her voice admitting that she shouldn't have said that. His hand moved in hesitation, but she suddenly turned, and he tried to stop her with a quiet wait, only for her to face him with startled eyes as he gently told her to go back to her room. Rika crashed forward in a clumsy tumble, landing over Iona as a sharp ouch slipped out, their eyes locking in stunned silence. Rika slipped forward and ended up on top of Hashimiya, both falling in surprise as she gasped quietly. His hands landed near her, and her eyes widened at the sudden closeness. Her breath trembled as the thought, "It's been a long time," while Rika froze, realizing he had touched Hashimiya again. Rika leans in too close and both bodies lose balance, sending Iona onto the floor with a startled gasp as he catches himself above her. his voice breaking with an urgent "I'm sorry" while her wide eyes lock on him in shock, the moment snapping as he jumps back in panic, wondering what was he done, and Iona rises slowly, covering her face in flustered silence while Riku calls her name, the room thick with tension neither knows how to face. Rika sat frozen, calling himself an idiot as the memory of last night weighed on his chest, the thought of hurting Hashimiya making his shoulders sink. Morning light filled the quiet room as he whispered that he was the worst, lost in regret until sudden footsteps made him jump. Kana stood at the doorway, offering a soft good morning as her calm gaze met his shaken eyes. Kana rushed in, shouting that Rika scared her. Rika stood tense as Iona's friend stepped in with sharp eyes, asking if Rika did something to her, and if Hashimiya Iona was okay. The reply of okay carried a tired edge. Riku explained that he met her last night, that she said she wanted to talk and went to the room. But the moment the words reached the girl, she burst in shock, demanding what he did to her, forcing Riku to confess that he pushed her, that she fell, and that he ended up scaring her, making the girl shout that he was the worst and ask how he could do that. Shaken, Riku admitted that he didn't imagine that touching her cheek would scare her, and that he messed up, adding an apology, unsure if she would forgive him, while the girl repeated her confusion about her cheek with rising frustration, the weight of every word tightening the air around all of them. He admitted that he touched Hachimiya's cheek, speaking of it gently. Rika stood tense as Kana stepped closer, her voice soft with a confused hey, asking what happened, and Kana watched his trembling hands as he remembered that moment. While Rika tried to steady himself, asking for a moment to gather his thoughts, Kana listened as he spoke about not even holding hands and still touching her cheek. Iona's face flashed in his mind with a quietum as she reacted, and after one explanation later, Kana held her breath, saying Rihanna wouldn't have liked that, while Rika stammered with a nervous well, startled when Kana leaned closer with a faint blush, asking what he was talking about. And her worried eyes followed his unsure pause as she explained that it was about doing something like that, more of a kind of action. Rika froze as Kana reminded him that Iona's fall had been an accident, her calm voice pointing out that he scared her and touched her cheek, while his frantic words tried to brush it aside, even as regret clouded his face. Kana leaned closer, telling him that instead of blaming himself now, he should apologize so Iona forgives him, her tone steady and firm. Riku answered with a determined promise, saying he would do everything he could to apologize, and Kana challenged him with a sharp question about his energy from yesterday as she walked off. Riku followed her through the hallway, nerves rising with every step, until he finally stepped outside where Iona appeared ahead of him, her presence stopping him in place as the moment to face her arrived. Flustered, Riku admitted that Iona ran away like a little animal, and that this was the only way he could apologize, and Kana quietly pointed out that Iona was cute. Riku stood frozen as Kana asked if the problem was Iona's feelings. Kana then stepped forward, calling his name and asking him to tell what happened, saying she would be straightforward, and that it looked like things were awkward between him and that idiot Riku. Kana later found Iona in the hallway, asking what was wrong, and Iona hesitated, which made Kana warn that if the truth was not said, she would be mad at Riku. Iona panicked with a desperate, and Kana gently asked if Iona hated Riku now, her calm gaze waiting as she repeated the question. So what happened? While Kana listened and gently said not upset or uncomfortable, Iona sat with a soft blush, whispering that Kuramine-kun likes her, prompting Iona's quiet, so as she remembered him touching her cheek because he was worried. Kana then asked what if Riku liked Iona, and Iona admitted she would be happy, thinking about the night he spent there and how her heart reacted. As Iona confessed that before she knew it, he was all she could think of, calling it weird to not know much about Kuramine-kun, yet still feel drawn to him. Kana observed, so it seems, wondering if it could be love at first sight. Iona simply nodded and said she would get ready for work. Kana watched Iona quietly, sensing how she didn't remember everything but was still worried, and the thought formed clearly that no matter how anyone looked at it, Iona was in love with Riku. Rika sat in calm focus while Kana walked past and asked what he was doing, and as she sat down, Kana muttered, sublimating with a baffled look. Riku explained that Iona went to work, and Kana reacted with surprise, asking if she still worked at the convenience store even after moving to the countryside, while Riku answered that underestimating those in the countryside was a mistake, and Kana quietly asked if Iona still did that from here as both of them watched Iona walk away. Riku rushed after Kana as she insisted that apologizing to Iona at the convenience store was the only way, her calm voice calling it obvious while his startled protest filled the room. And she pulled him along despite his nervous stammering, reminding him that it would be fine if there were no customers. He hesitated again, worried it might be a distraction, but her steady gaze pushed him forward with a firm promise that apologizing properly was necessary or it could cause a problem. And with a determined step, she urged him on with a sharp "well, let's go." Rika sat stiff and anxious, confessing that Hashimiya felt distant and made him feel lonely, while Kana placed a steady hand on his shoulder and reminded him that she didn't hate him, urging him to see that Iona was very shy and acted embarrassed only around him. As Kana pointed toward Iona quietly sitting with her hands folded, Kona then asked if he was nervous too, and the moment the question reached him, Rika jumped up in flustered retreat toward the bathroom, leaving Kona watching him run as his worries echoed louder than his footsteps. Rika's thoughts spiraled in panic, wondering what he should do, wanting her happiness, and feeling their love lost like her memories. Rika burst into the store just as a robber grabbed Iona, and the scene tightened with fear as the man pressed her closer, shouting at anyone who moved. Rika stepped forward, voice sharp with "don't mess with me," while Kona rushed in behind him, realizing with shock that this was another robbery. Iona trembled in the robber's hold, hearing Rika shout that Iona hadn't done anything wrong and demand the man stay away from Iona. The robber barked back, but Rika pushed on, offering himself with "take me as a hostage instead," leaving Iona wide-eyed as the tense moment hung between danger and desperation. From the moment the robber's shout of "where were you" split the air, the scene tightened as Riku rushed forward, pleading please, while the startled criminal barked stop and demanded "who are you?" his panic rising as he cursed today's bad luck and cried that no one's come here at this hour in 3 days. Kana stepped in with a firm "let her go," only for the robber to twist in rage, screaming "shut up, what does a woman like you know? You don't know my pain," while Hashimiya trembled in his grip as the chaos spiraled under the harsh bathroom. Hashimiya stood firm with fierce resolve, telling the robber to listen and drop that knife, warning that jail or getting killed awaited if he tried to run, while Riku and Kana watched the scene tighten around Iona's trembling breath. The robber dragged her close as Rika shouted that at this rate he would kill her, and Kana stepped forward, her glare sharp as she demanded that he stop and not hurt her. Yet the man sneered, asking what this guy was saying and telling them to look at how she suffers, pulling Iona even tighter as Rika stumbled out a broken "we're not dating" while his fear rose. And in that pressure the robber snapped, saying he would do it as Khan pleaded "sir please," the room holding its breath as danger closed in around Iona's shaking frame. Rico faced the robber with steady eyes, declaring that he just want her to be happy, and Iona's stunned gaze softened as the words reached her, the tension around her trembling form growing heavier. The robber barked "on your knees," leaning forward in rage, and Rika lowered himself without hesitation, silent and focused, asking "so please let her go." Rika stayed still, shoulders tight, thinking if he can save her while Iona watched in fear, the whole room holding its breath around his quiet resolve. The man shouted that a brat like him wouldn't understand my pain, and claimed "don't kid yourself, that would never work." Iona stood frozen as the robber's rage rose, his voice breaking through the store with silence like it takes making everything goes as planned, while Kana stepped forward, saying if it's money wanted take it, just let her go, only for the man to snap back that money won't do. Then Iona trembled when he shouted "take off those clothes," forcing her to step forward in shock, and Rika watched with pain and failure echoing loudly, saying "pain and failure, it's just like me before meeting Hashimiya," as Kana pleaded that she wanted him to know pain and failure like she did, while Rika whispered what should be done. Could anything be done? Before his thoughts sharpened with he though he can see from the perspective. Them are the same, remembering when she saved him. Rika stepped forward with tense resolve as the robber barked "shut up, just do it," while Kana steadied herself and asked if taking off clothes would make him leave Iona alone, only for Rika's shout of what Riku can do is to cut through the air before stripping off his shirt. The robber spun in shock, yelling "what are Rika doing, and why Riku undressing?" driving him to scream "not Riku" as Rika tried to draw the danger toward himself. whispering Riku will take everything off. Wait, determined to shift the threat away from Iona, no matter the cost. Her faint reply of no came just as the robber called Riku a damn pervert, while Riku readied himself. Outside the store, Iona trembled, as someone asked, "Are Iona hurt?" Under the quiet moon, Iona stepped from the shadows, her long hair catching the pale light as she called out softly, her voice carrying both worry and resolve. Rika stood ahead, facing the glowing sky in silence. Under the quiet moonlight, Rika stood alone in the garden as Iona approached with a soft voice calling his name, her steps hesitant and her expression gentle. He asked if she came for fresh air, thinking about having a knife to her throat and how terrifying it must have been, while she admitted she couldn't sleep for some reason. The air turned heavy as both struggled for words, the moment sinking into awkward silence, until Iona finally agreed when he mentioned the robbery being terrifying. Her gaze lowered while the night wrapped around them in stillness. Under the moonlit trees, Rika stepped closer as Iona suddenly faltered, her soft gasp breaking the quiet night, and he asked if she was okay while trying to steady her. She leaned toward him, admitting that even his earlier words mattered, saying Kuramankuen did all that for her, and her voice trembled with the wish to stay like this. Her mind replayed the moment of "I just want her to be happy," wondering if it was true, unable to lie when worried, while he struggled to recall what was said in his desperate state. In that fragile space, both stood caught between fear and warmth, their hearts pressing closer than the night around them. Under the quiet moonlight, Iona stepped closer with soft eyes, asking happy, while Rika listened as her voice trembled, saying, "If it's what you want, I want to be happy too," her expression warm and sincere. His thoughts stirred with sense of loss, remembering a feeling as if something important had been left behind, and her presence filled that empty place as she recalled being very excited and thinking about him all the time. Her gaze softened as she admitted that meeting him filled her heart with joy, while an image of her past shimmered faintly as she whispered that she thought it was love at first sight, even though she probably saw him at school. Hashimiya stepped forward with flushed cheeks, asking softly if Kuramankuen liked her, her eyes filled with hope. Kuramankuen faced her with steady breath, admitting that he liked Hashimiya and liked her a lot. Her face brightened, heat rising to her eyes as she whispered that she felt so happy, that she liked him too, her expression overflowing with relief and joy. Under the night glow, Kuramine stood tense with conflicted thoughts, unable to tell the whole truth as the memory of convulsions held him back, while Hashimiya stepped closer with gentle sincerity, saying it felt like love at first sight and claiming it had to be fate. Her sudden dash forward broke his hesitation, calling his name with a trembling voice, and the moment collided as she leapt into his arms. Rika stepped toward Iona with tense concern as her anxious gaze lifted, her soft apology spilling out while she admitted fear and asked to go at his pace. Yet his arms wrapped around her in a firm hold that made her panic and call out that it was too early for this, her cheeks burning as she clung back. Later, Conan wandered alone through the quiet hallway, thinking she couldn't sleep and wondering if it was because of the robbery, her steps slow in the doorway, calling Iona with calm surprise. Conan stepped into the hallway with a tired look, saying she couldn't sleep, and Iona asked if she was okay, trying to understand what happened. Conan's flustered tone made Iona snap in surprise. Asking what was wrong, Iona explained she had just met Kuramankuen in the garden. Iona listened as Kana admitted that Riku only thinks about her, that it was obvious, and that he told her he likes her and then hugged her. Iona smiled gently, saying his feelings are real, calling him a somewhat strange man but sincere, while Kana softly answered she knew because he showed her. After wishing each other good night, Iona walked away, leaving Kana alone with her thoughts. Later, Rika met Iona again, and she looked at him with a grin, calling out Riku, he did it, while he stood there stunned as she said he looked a bit down, wondering if those two were dating again. Rika stared forward with trembling resolve, repeating that it was tough and needed no tears or painful memories, while a quiet voice reminded him that her acceptance of his feelings should have been a good thing. His thoughts cracked as he insisted that she forgot him, forgot her life with him, as if she never loved him, while his heart replayed the moment he reached Hashimiya's heart and fell in love with her. Denying love at first sight, he clenched his hands and called himself pathetic, realizing that her happiness was so important to him. Yet every feeling still twisted into a fear that he ended up making everything all about himself. Rika stood frozen as Khan stepped in front of him, calling his name with a firm stare, her voice rising as she declared that Rika really was a great idiot, her words bursting out while she vowed to support him, even though he was going through a tough time. Her voice softened as she reminded him that he was here because he was the only one capable of helping Ayana, stating that even if he broke up with Harazaki, it was not pathetic, her conviction steady as she tried to lift the weight crushing him. She pushed back harder, shouting that he was wrong, insisting that he really was a stupid and honest person, her frustration mixing with a fierce kind of care. Under the soft light of the room, Kano stepped forward with steady resolve, urging Riku to not keep feelings locked away and promising, as a friend, to listen to whatever he had to say, even shouting that anyone who dared to mock Riku would be met with her strength, her stance fierce and protective, while she circled him with playful insistence, telling him to complain a lot. Rika watched her with a softened gaze, a quiet thought rising that he was glad Kana was here. Her sudden brightness made his eyes warm, and in that gentle moment, he faced her with gratitude, whispering, "Kana, thank you very much." Rika forced a small smile and tried to say being fine, even as dizziness touched his face, then moved toward his room, saying it was late. Rika stood in the hallway trying to stay steady as Kana stepped closer with calm strength, saying everything would be fine and offering help if any problem came up. She burst into flustered shock at the sight of Kana acting supportive, while Rika quietly admitted that it might sound strange, but Kanan felt like someone special. Kona answered with a soft yet before wishing good night as the two parted ways. In the quiet that followed, Kan's thoughts echoed with must help him, the only one who understands him, the only person who can support him, the only person who knows his suffering, believing that this way Ayana and Riku can be happy. Even as Riko's face lingered in her mind, and she pressed a hand over her chest whispering, "Don't sidetrack me," calling him stupid Riku with a faint tremble in her voice. Riku sat in quiet confusion, admitting that he was with Hashimiya again, yet unsure what to do, while Kana suddenly rushed in, shouting his name with worry, asking if something happened as she knelt beside him, her expression tense and searching, then leaned closer and asked if there was something he wanted to talk about, her voice steady but gentle, and Rika whispered that everything should go back to how it was before, his face troubled, as another voice answered with calm certainty that he could be himself now that he was together with Hashimiya again. Rika sat with a troubled face, his hand tightening as soft words formed in his thoughts, saying he'd like to get to know Hashimiya better, and wondering what should be done exactly. His gaze lowering as the truth settled in, saying that living together made them get close quickly. But the weight of that closeness now left him unsure. Rika sits with a troubled face, admitting that being with Hashimiya is enough for him, while Kana studies him closely, unsure if his heart is greedy or selfless, her tone firm as she pushes him to stop hiding behind quiet acceptance and just do what he wants, her final words landing with sharp clarity as she leans in, urging a simple path forward with a steady gaze. So, why not ask her out on a date? Rika calmly mentioned a date, but admitted there was neither an arcade nor a karaoke place, leaving only one convenience store. Rika stood frozen as a date idea turned into confusion, his mind racing while Kana snapped with a sharp "just make up that mind already and always complain," her energy filling the room as she threw in how about shopping, and even wondered if she a delinquent. Kana's blunt advice followed, saying don't force yourself, just grab the hand of the person liked, and be happy walking around the neighborhood, while Iona's quiet no, and it's no big thing softened the moment. Rika's awkward stare made Kana ask what's with that stupid face, while Iona added it's not a threat, just advice, and questioned are you making fun of me, calling him not as naive as he seemed, all while Rika shifted between hesitation and surprise, caught between both voices guiding him forward. Then she pushed again for action, saying for now why not ask her out. Rika stood frozen as Kana's calm voice filled the room. Her eyes steady while she spoke about a second first date that felt complicated, her words quiet but heavy, her stance firm. She wondered why not just go and ask for a date, her presence pressing gently yet confidently against Rika's hesitation. A pause followed, her expression unreadable, as she repeated complicated with a soft edge that made the air tighten. Rika looked down, struggling with the thought of Hashimiya, But Kana stepped forward with sudden resolve, lifting a hand and declaring a plan with bright determination, telling him to imagine her as Iona and ask her out. Kana stood tense as Rika's gaze lingered, the soft close-up of her face revealing a calm thought. Speaking of look closely, and Kana is quite cute, while Rika flinched with a startled shake as Kana covered her face and muttered sorry, heat rising across her cheeks. The mood shifted when Iona stepped in with a sharp tone, calling out enough and stop it already, pushing the room into flustered chaos, as Rika tried to speak Hashimiya, and Iona answered all right. Rika stood firm with calm resolve, asking to go on a date and wanting to take a short walk, while Kana's gaze softened as the name Kurenai-kun echoed in her thoughts. Her heart races even though she calls it just practicing. Yet Kana stepped forward with sharp energy, challenging him with "Aren't you getting ahead of yourself?" and hurling back, "Why should I go on a date with you?" Her stance bold and confident, while Kana's quiet tremble and Rika's steady posture filled the room with rising tension, each word pulling the moment tighter as the question of a date sparked confusion, stubborn pride, and a heartbeat that refused to calm, leaving him stunned as she looked at him, while Kana faced him with trembling eyes, tears slipping down before either of them realized it. Rika panicked, calling it a joke and saying sorry seriously, but her soft sobs only grew. Kana's quiet hurt settled over the room as Rika stood frozen, whispering that Kana hates him. The weight of that moment followed her as she turned away, sadness flickering across her face, until she stepped closer again with gentle resolve, resting a hand on Rika's head and leaning forward with calm warmth, offering a simple "here" and "cheer up" that washed the room in quiet comfort, her touch easing the ache between them. Rika steps into the room and Kana suddenly lights up, calling him a puppy with an easy smile, her hand dropping onto his head as she says she likes puppies and tells him to look at this cutie, while he flushes in confusion, unsure if she is making fun of him. Iona watches the scene and calmly says she sees it, noting they get along pretty well, while Kana flails and insists it's not what it looks like. Then Kana steps forward, her eyes warm and glimmering, saying Rika looked like a puppy and that it was just a joke, reminding him he is her boyfriend. Rika looks troubled, feeling it's unfair only Kana gets close, and Iona answers gently, calling him Kurenai-kun and giving a soft "see ya" as she leaves them together. And as she gazes at him with a tender blush, she whispers that she also wants to pat his head. Rika sits tense as Iona leans close, asking if he's jealous, her bright eyes fixed on him while he insists he's not. She reaches for his hand, repeating the word "hand" with a playful spark, and Rika responds with a timid woof as he stretches his arm toward her like a puppy. Iona smiles, saying "well done," then pats his head with a warm hand, her gentle touch turning the moment soft and glowing around them. Rika stands still as Iona steps close with a warm smile, lightly touching his hair and saying his hair is a bit rough. Her laugh soft as his cheeks turn red, and she notes his cheeks are soft, while Kana watches from the side with gentle eyes. Iona's bright voice shifts into something tender as she says that makes her very happy. Yet she wants something more concrete, and Riku, flustered in earnest, answers with "always stay by my side," his gaze steady. Iona blushes deeply at the words "something as a couple," and steps in, reminding her that she wanted to talk, while the room fills with quiet tension, soft embarrassment. Rika suddenly blurts out a bold wish, making Kana flinch as she smacks his arm and calls it too specific, while he tries to defend himself. Kana fires back with a flustered ramble about age, height, and random facts, and Riko answers with a calmer thought about not skipping steps and needing to know each other better. Kana's eyes soften, but the moment breaks when Iona laughs and admits it seemed funny, leaving Kana clutching her stomach and Rika panicking as she shouts "not like that" and stumbles after them in embarrassment. His eyes steady as he said "wanna tell something" and "wanna know never hate," her hesitant "okay" rising with a soft blush. Iona snapping back with "stop with that," while his mind echoed "maybe don't understand now but will when regain memory." Rika stood tense as the thought of naughty things tomorrow night made him fluster. Yet Rika pushed forward with want to respond to those feelings, and want to go at pace, take it easy, only to reveal no, was kidding at the last second. Iona tried to ease the moment with "don't have to force yourself," leaving Iona flustered with that shaky "well, alright" as she tried to regain composure. From the moment the store news came, Rika listened as Hashimiya spoke about thinking a lot about life and not knowing what happened, her voice carrying a quiet shake as she admitted it felt a bit embarrassing. But that last night brought a clear thought about wanting to decide what she wanted before things happened again. Iona stepped closer, saying tomorrow night would bring a visit to Rika's room, sounding convinced. Yet her eyes revealed a flicker of worry that made Rika wonder what was wrong for a moment. And Hashimiya suggested going outside for a while, her expression softening as the decision settled between them. Her thoughts raced between wanting to remember and not wanting to remember, a contradiction written across her face, until she looked at Riku and said a date sounded right. Riku answered with a gentle yes. Riku reached toward Hashimiya, calling her name as gentle fingers touched her cheek, and shock filled her wide eye as the thought "what's wrong?" and for a moment something was seen flooded the moment. Under the warm countryside light, Rika stands beside Iona and quietly takes in her soft words about country life, while Iona blushes as the wish to live in a place like this with Hashimiya drifts out, followed by playful scolding that Kuromine-kun is skipping many steps. Scenes flash in Rika's mind. Friends joking about names for grandchildren, others asking if he is overthinking. Someone shouting what planet Kuromine-kun is on after hearing talk about where to live after death. Through it all, the gentle wish to be together forever settles between the two, and when the final question rises, about them status, Iona's shy answer, yes, lands softly as the two stand close on the quiet path. The moment unfolds with two hands slowly reaching closer, as the thought rises that you never know what can happen in life, followed by a trembling admission of not knowing what will happen from now on, and a quiet vow to make sure to do everything right, pushing a resolve that will do that tomorrow. So let's take the first step today. A step that leads to a soft plea that asks if they can't hold hands. A plea answered by a hesitant then, yes, as the girl leans forward with the truth that what is wanted the most now is to be connected with you, even while admitting that of course there is still a bit of uneasy feeling. Yet no fear remains when Kuromine-kun is by her side, and as their fingers finally lock, the thought rises that it feels warm, and that they are connected, the two standing together under the sky while the last fragile words spill out, calling the moment a bit embarrassing. Iona steps close and calls out that Kuromine-kun is blushing, while Hashimiya is too, and the soft tension between them sharpens as he quietly admits he thinks so. A sudden thought rises as Iona notes that he calls Kana by her name, and he answers that only those two receive that. When asked if other girls gain the same, he responds with a hesitant yes, and Iona's stare deepens as the mood shifts. Hashimiya watches this unfold, her voice firm as she declares herself his girlfriend, adding that she does not like that, leaving Kuromine-kun stunned and wondering if Hashimiya is jealous and possessive. Iona stepped forward with flushed cheeks, calling out that she wanted to be called by her name, and that she also wanted to do the same, her voice trembling with hope. Rico urged her to say it, and when the soft Iona slipped from his lips, he declared that of course they can, while she wondered if it was no good, her worry turning into fierce determination as she demanded say it again, and Riku answered with a louder Iona, leaving both standing in a moment shaped by courage and fragile. Her bright smile filled the scene as her face appeared above him, carrying the soft words cute, and she's too cute, while her real figure stepped closer with shy confidence, her hand held in his. His heart surged with the fierce declaration, Iona, he's my girlfriend. Iona walked beside Riku with a bright smile, calling out Riku-kun as her steps kicked up sand, while Riku told himself must stop overthinking things as he looked at her genuine smile, altered memory, or not that her voice trembling with shy pride, while a nearby man waved and called out hey and asked Iona-chan, is that your boyfriend? Leaving Iona answering as she clutched Rika's arm. Iona's cheeks warmed as she whispered yes, he's my boyfriend. Iona rested on Rika's lap, creating a scene so defenseless that Rika's nerves still felt so tingly under the weight of a lover's lap pillow. Iona's gentle form stayed still as Kana whispered that she was cute, while another voice pointed out that Iona fell asleep on Rika's lap. While Kana watched from nearby, noting that it seemed so, and that Iona liked to show off, more assertive than imagined. In that quiet room, Rico hears that all of this is the result of the things done, and a sudden question of being the one hangs in the air, while the girl nearby insists that Rico has put in a lot of effort, and even with lost memory her affection remains. She steps closer, asking what was wanted, only to mutter a little jealous of Iona, then dismiss it as nothing, leaving the scene wrapped in soft tension, as both stand there caught between honesty and restraint. In that quiet room, Rico hears that all of this is the result of the things done, and a sudden question of being the one hangs in the air. Kana watched Riku and Iona together, thinking they're a couple and get along well, telling herself to be happy for them. Yet her heart whispered damn why, and how annoying as the sight of a lap pillow stirred something complicated inside. She placed a hand on her head, murmuring I'm tired, her expression dull and restless, and soon sprawled across the room shouting there's nothing to do, nothing. I'll die of boredom this way as summer heat wrapped the house, while Rika stood nearby, unsure how to handle her sudden burst of frustration. Rika stood tense as the talk of doing something filled the room, while Kona crossed her arms with a come me neither. And Iona admitted she didn't bring one either, her voice soft as the idea of the beach rose between them, followed by her quiet thought of not having a swimsuit. Rika's shoulders slumped with an uneasy ugh as Kana studied the options with a thoughtful hum, and Iona watched in silence, until a box appeared before them, and Iona murmured that these were the ones Soida sent lent. While Kana looked down at the scattered pieces with a resigned sorry, Kana-chan, there's only this, leaving Rika staring wide-eyed at the unexpected lineup, thinking what's with that lineup as the three stood caught between surprise. Kana watched the tension rise as Rika mentioned he could wear shorts, while Iona and Kana wondered if he had already left. The girls leaned in with sharp confidence, suggesting rock, paper, scissors to make it fair, then shifting to settle it by an honorable duel, asking for forgiveness, but the girls reminded him there were three options, leaving him confused as Kana and Iona stood before him, calm yet intense, and Rika whispered a weak why me as the challenge continued. Their fierce aura making Rika tremble as the words women are terrifying echoed in his mind. With all eyes on him, he dropped to his knees. Iona and Kana stepped forward in their swimsuits, their hair moving with the soft wind, their shapes framed by sparkles that made the moment feel almost unreal. Under the warm beach light, Iona stepped forward as Rika called her beautiful, her shy thanks slipping out while Kana's sharp glare pushed him back with a flustered complaint about things looking bigger in that swimsuit. Kana tried to stay cool, saying a compliment coming from Rika meant something, and his quiet remark about her slim figure made the swimsuit look good brought a faint blush to her calm face. She crossed her arms and asked if he forgot about her, only to freeze when he mentioned having a gift, her eyes widening as she whispered a stunned, for me, while he held the bag toward her. Under the bright shore, Kana lifted the swimming cap with a puzzled look, wondering if Rika was making fun of her, yet still taking it because it was the first time a guy had given her something. Iona stepped forward with crossed arms, calling out that her boyfriend hadn't given her a gift, her voice full of playful complaint. Kana watched as Rika dropped to the ground again, apologizing with flustered panic, while Iona smiled and said how unfair it felt. Riku, still shaken, declared that today he would do whatever they liked, but first he set up the umbrella, trying to regain composure as both girls stood behind him, watching his effort with quiet anticipation. Iona stepped forward with a soft greeting as Reko arrived, still holding the gift meant for her, while his thoughts circled around the words a gift for Iona. A pair of men stopped Iona and invited her to come with them, saying come with us and let's make some memories together, leaving Rika tense as he noticed Connor wasn't with her, and whispered just womanizers, nothing to get agitated by. Iona hurried back to him with an anxious Rika-kun, while the strangers looked on and asked are you her boyfriend, turning the moment into a mix of surprise and quiet relief, as Rika stood beside her, steady and protective. Iona stood close to Rika with a bright smile, proudly calling him her boyfriend, as the two men backed off with quick apologies, saying her boyfriend seemed very understanding, and that they would go somewhere else, while Rika noted in calm surprise that they were good guys. Iona teased him for watching too much anime, wondering if a fight was supposed to start, then softened and said she was glad he came, while Rika looked around and asked what happened to Kana, only for Iona to explain that Kana went to pick some flowers as the gentle beach wind drifted around them. While Rika watched her closely and asked if something happened, Kona returned to the beach with a calm face, saying it took a while because three guys tried to talk to her. Iona reacted with wide surprise, saying really to Kana, then brightened as she explained that Reko helped her. Kona listened, wondering if a surprise like that should come from her or him, her eyes soft with hidden thoughts. Iona praised him, saying he was great and asking if it was a relief, while Rico admitted he didn't think he did much. As the breeze moved across the sand, Kana stood silently, feeling a bit jealous of Iona, unsure what these feelings meant, her expression turning thoughtful and conflicted. Warm sunlight glowed over the water as Riku and Iona floated close, her calm glance easing the moment while she mentioned concern for Kana, and said she wanted to keep an eye on things, and Rika sensed she might have been thinking about them before deciding to thank her later. Iona softened, offering thanks for saving her from those guys and asking about something for him, and Rico answered with a steady smile that all was fine. Her eyes warmed with quiet emotion as she said it made her happy to spend this time together, and that nothing else was needed, while Rika met her gaze with gentle surprise, saying he already had all he needed, turning the scene into a soft, bright moment that lingered between them. Iona leaned closer in the warm water, admiring Rika's great body and saying training made him muscular, her hand brushing his skin as she asked if touching a bit was okay, her eyes wide with surprise at how different his skin felt from hers. Rika tried to stay calm, warning that anything might happen as Iona traced his arm, calling it so muscular, her voice soft with wonder. He pulled back slightly, saying enough already, yet Iona kept studying him with curiosity, saying it felt like a man's body, while Rika's face grew tense, feeling something strange rising inside as the moment pressed them closer, making him think he was starting to feel weird. She couldn't take it anymore while insisting she wasn't a puppy, until the sudden slip pulled her under. In the rush of the water, Rika swam off in panic as Iona chased after him, calling out with fire in her voice. Rika turned back the moment her arm vanished beneath the waves, cutting through the water as Iona struggled and reached out with trembling effort, her breath breaking into a cough when he pulled her up. Relief washed over her face as she leaned close, whispering his name, while Rika stared back in silence, the tension of the moment drawing both of them into a quiet, breath-held stillness. A gentle promise hung in the air as the pair drifted closer from the right, Iona whispering, "Shall continue tonight," with shy eyes, while Riku answered with a bright, his face glowing. Their closeness grew in the water, leaving soft hearts floating around them as Kana watched from behind, wondering, just what that idiot couple doing, the scene making her feel only getting in the way. Even so, the moment felt warm. Two people who just started dating, already standing so close, their quiet connection shining bright enough for anyone to see. Rika walked beside Iona as Kana urged them to get along and make Iona happy, her calm face hiding a quiet hope. When the call to go home came, Kana's soft smile accompanied her gentle words, while Rika lifted the surfboard and followed. On the bus, Kana spoke about a savior and wanting to thank her with something, her gaze steady as Iona listened in silence. Riku answered with warmth, saying happiness with Iona came thanks to Kana, and that simple truth settled over all three of them, shaping the ride home with a quiet, glowing peace. Rika sat quietly as Iona leaned in half asleep, calling his name with a soft murmur, her cheek brushing his shoulder, while Kana watched with a calm gaze, noting that she looked happy. Iona then settled fully against him, saying she was sleepy, and Kana, after a brief pause, asked to lean on his other shoulder, resting there as well, leaving Rika frozen between them. Wondering if this was what it meant to have two beauties by his side, Kana spoke gently about charm, and how Iona felt more like a rose, while Iona called him just a pillow with a playful tone, and Kana added that her own charm sometimes went unnoticed, ending with a quiet "I see" as both girls relaxed against him. Iona watches with calm curiosity, asking what it is, for example, while Rika stands flustered as the question about adulthood hits him, mumbling about something used to make babies. Kana reacts with shock, shouting that babies aren't made like that, and saying the stork delivers them. Iona checking if she is all better now, her innocent panic filling the moment, until Rika blurts that it's still too early for that, leaving Kana breathless and needing time to calm down, and Rika quietly thinking Kana is more innocent than expected while remembering a made promise. Panic pushed her down the hall, her steps unsteady as she wondered what the hell she was doing, reminding herself that Riku and Iona are dating. Of course they'd do it, yet frustration twisted inside, asking why she must interfere. Her thoughts spun in a storm as she pressed a hand to her face, her heart burning with the words, "Damn it. Why did she have to fall in love, knowing the person he likes is Iona?" Iona stepped into the quiet hallway, whispering that it was late and that a visit to Rikakuin's room was needed. Her cheeks warm as she said her body was washed well, so it was okay. Iona paused, noticing Kana's lights still on, wondering if she was awake. Iona froze at the doorway, in another room, breaking inside as she repeated that she shouldn't have fallen for Riku, calling herself stupid while fighting back tears. Eyes widening, shaken by the thought that Kana likes Riku, too, only to feel a sudden chill as she sensed something was wrong and whispered that she couldn't see Rikakun now. Morning light rose as Riku stood by the window, holding a tired face and wondering about a forgotten promise, while thinking maybe Iona didn't come, trying to laugh it off even as a feverish feeling pressed on him. Iona stepped into the hall, calling out softly and hoping Rikakun was there, only for Rika to appear and tell her not to mind him, leaving her startled as she whispered his name. She apologized for not coming to his room last night, her posture uncertain, and Rika watched her carefully, asking if something happened. Iona insisted nothing really, though her eyes drifted away, and Rika gently said not mad, if worried about something, let him know, creating a quiet moment where her silence lingered heavily between them. Rika stepped closer, confused by the tension, asking if there was hate now, while Iona's voice rose with a sharp no, and a sudden confession of really like Rikakun. Her face tight with emotion as she begged for what's wrong, his eyes narrowing in concern as she wondered if Kana said something. And in the hallway Iona watched Kana hurry away, calling her name with worry, thinking something was wrong with Kana. The question, does Kana know something, echoing in her mind as she faced Riku again, asking Rikakun to try talking to Kana, and Riku answered with a calm sure. While Iona realized she wouldn't tell anything, her expression mixed with hope and unease. Kana burst out with raw frustration, shouting for everything to just end as Riku hurried toward her, only to hear her claim nothing happened at all, her trembling voice insisting nothing at all while her eyes avoided his. Kana stepped closer with worry, asking what was wrong as Kana stiffened, and Rika watched her walk away, thinking something happened between those two as he muttered about getting some water, his steps heavy with doubt. Rico turned back toward Kana's door with a quiet resolve, calling out, "Hey, Kana," and pushing himself to try again. Rick was surprised when Kana announced leaving tomorrow, asking why so suddenly. Kana watched Riku prepare to leave, hearing him say there was no need for him to stay, asking if he was going out. Kana stepped closer, wondering if something happened, and Kana froze as the thought of Rico and Iona getting along stirred inside her. Kana tried to act calm, saying Iona didn't come to her room and had been acting strange since the morning. But her eyes trembled when the question came about helping Riku, leading her to blurt out that nothing happened, while Kana's shaken expression revealed the fear that Iona might have heard the faint whisper of a truth she tried to hide. Rika's quiet gaze showed he knew something was wrong. Riku opened the box with a confused look as the soft yukata of fabric unfolded in his hands, the words "this is a yukata" hanging in the air while Kana stared at it, unsure where she could wear it. Iona's grandmother smiling as she explained she accidentally bought two, her bright energy filling the room as she cheered such perfect timing and spoke of a festival tomorrow that would suit both Iona-chan and Kana-chan. Rika's excitement bursting out with "Let's go, the three of us, we have yukatas," while Kona and Iona exchanged hesitant glances, giving small unsure answers, the quiet mood shifting as Rika muttered, "If the three don't go together, it'll probably die," pushing the two girls to agree at last, Kana softly saying the three of us should go then, as she stood there with a shy but warm expression. Both girls stepped into the glow of the festival lights, the soft shimmer of the night catching on their yukata. Iona stood in her soft, pale yukata, cheeks glowing as she admitted she was afraid it wouldn't look good on her. Yet Rika's bright praise lifted her expression instantly, calling her beautiful and making her smile widen with relief. Kana, unable to hold back her impatience, stepped forward with a sharp and hopeful "in me," her eyes fixed on him, only to watch Iona receive warm words that she looked very cute and was glowing, leaving Kana tense with longing. Then Iona leaned closer, her face bright with joy as she whispered, "Thank you, Rika-kun, and I'm happy." Under the festival lights, the crowd buzzed as Rika stood between Iona and Kana, hearing talk about getting lost and eating a caramel apple. While Iona warned not to decide on one's own and Kana admitted she didn't know how to eat it, demanding why it was bought then. Rika stayed still, holding the candy as both girls watched, and in the next moment Kana leaned in with quiet focus while Iona lifted her own, each taking careful bites. Under the bright festival lights, Rika stood between Iona and Kana as the crowd moved around them, the sounds of stalls echoing through the air. Iona, calm and gentle in her yukata, pointed toward the goldfish scoop game and told Riko he was good at this, while Kana, sitting beside him with quiet confidence, claimed she could show what she was made of, making him glance at her and wonder where that confidence came from. Kana admitted she never tried it before. Rika said he wasn't sure about himself, and the soft glow of the festival wrapped around the three as Iona asked whether Rika knew how to do it too. Rika spoke about wanting to get at least one, while Iona called herself amazing and Kana wondered who taught her. And as they talked, Kana suddenly froze, thinking this is weird and asking why she was crying. The memory of her father teaching everything rising up as a tear fell, and her voice trembled with her. While Riko and Iona noticed her pale face, and asked, "Are you sick and are you okay?" And Riko stumbled with "Oh" before Iona hurried closer, and said, "Take this," as she reached out Kana, whispering, "Tea, thank." The festival lights glowing above as Iona said, "Let's rest somewhere else," and Rika promised to go buy some water. Iona tried to walk away as Rika finally pressed Kana to share the truth, saying this involved him, and Kana's calm voice revealed a quiet possibility that she liked him, shocking Iona enough to freeze in place before rushing off in panic, leaving Kana standing stunned while Riko called out, "Iona, wait!" chasing her through the glowing festival path as Kana watched silently behind them. Iona trembled as her voice broke, saying she didn't know what to do anymore, while Riko watched her with pain tightening his expression. Her head hurt, and an important memory slipped away, leaving her frightened as she wondered about something she didn't know, something tied to love at first sight in the classroom. Iona stepped closer, pleading for the truth, shaking as she asked what Riku was hiding. Riku answered with calm resolve, saying it was okay, and that he would tell everything. While Iona looked down, saying something did happen, and that she wanted to say something first, her eyes shining with both fear and determination. His gaze softened as he admitted his feelings for Iona hadn't changed. Riko recalled a moment from long ago, speaking of a middle school day marked by a car accident, the memory flashing into view as metal and light crashed together. And Iona's eyes widened when the truth surfaced that the accident caused by his parents had killed his family. Her voice trembling as the realization struck, followed by the heavy revelation that his parents committed suicide. Iona stood frozen as the truth hit her, the words altering memories, echoing while the image of a cracked mind flashed before her eyes, and a forgotten scene at a small table returned, her younger self trembling as someone explained that humans sometimes modify memories during an unbearable event, something she once thought impossible. Iona's voice broke in panic, denying the fact, calling out as Rika tried to speak, and the moment sparked a rush of remembrance inside her, the memory of an accident, rising with trembling breath. She steps back with shaken eyes as Rika's quiet plea to stay away hits her, his voice heavy with hurt, while she's weak attempt to hold herself together trembles beside him, and both faces press him with the question to be kind as tension rises between them. Then she lowers her gaze, her breath unsteady, and with a fragile stare that barely holds itself together, she finally lets the truth slip out, confessing that the accident she caused still hangs over her. Faced Riku with trembling eyes, her voice breaking as she released the truth she had carried alone, saying that accident was her fault, and Rika stared back in stunned silence. Under the summer lights, Iona stepped forward with trembling resolve, admitting that on that day she caused the accident, her voice pulling Rika's focus as Kana hurried toward them, calling their names. Her memory unfolded as she described drinking some juice in the car, the can slipping from her hand when the vehicle hit a bump, rolling under the brake, and stopping its working. A small mistake turning into something devastating, leaving Riku staring in shock as Iona faced him with heavy guilt and the words that they can ended up under the brake, hanging between them like a truth too painful to escape. Iona's voice trembled as she pushed through Rika's words, desperate to continue, her hands clutching her head as she cried that her father kept trying to brake, yelling loudly while everything shook around them. And in all that chaos, he couldn't notice Kuramine-san in front. The scene flashed in her mind, her father crushing the can at last and breaking, but it was already too late. Standing under the festival lights with tears streaming down her face, Iona confessed that all of that was her fault and whispered a shaking "I'm so sorry." Iona staggered away in tears, whispering that they shouldn't be together anymore, while Rika forced himself to chase her despite the pounding in his head, thinking that if he didn't go after her now, the chance would vanish. Darkness closed in, and he collapsed, later waking in a familiar room, realizing a fever had dragged him under at the worst moment. As his eyes opened, Kana stood at his bedside with worried calm, asking if he was awake and mentioning Iona. Trembling voice broke the moment, saying she called some adults because Rika probably fainted from overexertion. And as he woke in the quiet room, Kana explained softly that Iona had left for the bus station 2 hours ago, choosing to leave after recovering all her memories. Rika sat up in shock, asking why she left, while Kana's calm gaze revealed she didn't want to be here anymore. And Riku clutched his head in frustration, whispering that he just wanted to make her happy, and now, once again, he hadn't made it in time and couldn't save her. Riku sits in heavy thought, the regret of hurt Iona again echoing in his mind as the words about harsh memories and false memories weigh down his heart. The image of Iona standing alone showing how the person who suffers the most is Iona. Kana watches him silently, her calm presence contrasting the rising urgency inside him, as the moment reveals that even now Iona is still alone. Driven by the need to make Iona happy, Riku rises with trembling determination, pushing away the urge to cry, while Kana softly calls his name. And with a sharp breath he declares the only thought left, have to go find Iona. Kana steps forward with a fierce, trembling resolve, her gaze locked on Riku as she leans down toward him, her breath unsteady and eyes filled with emotion. Riku lifts his head in shock, frozen as her determined voice fills the room. The simple words "Riku, go out with me" carrying all the weight of her feelings while she stands before him with unwavering sincerity. Conan steps forward with quiet resolve, lowering her gaze for a moment as gentle words about belief and abilities and doing household chores spill from trembling lips, her expression soft yet determined, while Riku reacts in stunned confusion. Her face warms as she dares to say quite hard-working, insisting this is just not the right time, yet Kana leans closer with calm honesty, noting how talk flows without worries and showing surprise by how well both get along. Her presence steadies the mood, shifting when hurricanes is mentioned is better, insisting that being a second choice, or even a third, meant nothing. Her voice rose as frustration tightened her expression, demanding calm. Enrica stepped back in confusion, asking what she was trying to do, her gaze sharp as she said she only saw Iona and him put in so much effort. And when asked so, her eyes softened into trembling sorrow as she confessed that in the beginning it felt like a good idea to help best friends. But after seeing the two together, the sight struck too deeply, leaving her with tears gathering. While a memory of Iona shows eyes filled with sadness and the weight of every time someone tries to get close to her and both end up hurt. Kana stands trembling with tears, holding her chest as soft fabric clings to her form, saying it can't continue, and she doesn't want anyone to suffer anymore. Kana answers that the best option is clear, and Rika stiffens at the question about giving up on Iona, understanding Kana worrying about them, while Kana's gaze stays steady as Riku rises with quiet resolve, saying there's something that bothers him. Kana's voice rising as she calls herself a horrible person, and says it is fine if it is for the two of them, her eyes wide with strain while Riku faces her in confusion, asking what it is. Her words spill out as she claims he is trying to be some sort of sacrifice, and he answers that it does not seem that way. Yet her gaze hardens while she asks if loving her best friend's boyfriend is not a horrible thing. The moment tightens as he tries to understand, and she confesses that she also kissed him. Her shoulders tense as she admits advising Iona while working with him, even knowing both situations. Kana stands with trembling eyes, gently admitting sorry as the truth spills out, remembering the moment on the bus when a quiet kiss happened while Rika slept, calling herself a horrible person for hiding it, her voice soft and breaking, and as she steps closer, her posture shows honest resolve as she declares "still like you" with steady determination, her expression firm yet wounded. Then her hand presses to her chest, as she confesses this feeling comes from stubbornness and she is sorry. Kana stands with trembling resolve, her voice soft as she offers just a small part of what is given to Ayana, calling Rika's name with fragile hope, while Rika stares downward in heavy silence, convinced this is for the best so no one ends up unhappy, and so Ayana and Riku won't have to remember the past. Kana stands before Rika with a trembling stare as gentle light fills the room, her voice asking, "Do you really want to do this?" The words mixing with a faint hesitation on her face. Her eyes lower as she hears the sharp question, "Are you willing to give up your life for the sake of someone else?" The weight of that choice sinking into her expression. Then his gaze lifts again, reminding him, "You said you would help us?" While her hand presses softly to her chest, saying, "This is enough for me." Kana stands with trembling hands, eyes soft and uncertain, while the voice before her pushes back in panic, saying this is not good and shouldn't be something to commit to. The words press in, asking not to speak of being the second or third, insisting that happiness should come first, and that striving for someone else isn't like Connor at all. Her expression tightens as those final words rise, telling Connor to be a woman who should appreciate herself first. And the room fills with the weight of concern and the hope that she chooses her own happiness. Connor stands with shaken breath, saying and wanting the best outcome, not wanting anyone to be hurt, but her trembling gaze shows the weight of compromise. It is better than someone getting hurt, wanting Riku and Ayana to forget each other and move on. Rika steps forward in disbelief, asking what she is saying, as Kana admits not knowing what the right decision is, but says Kana shouldn't be the sacrifice. A quiet pause filling the room. Iona's voice echoes in Kana's mind, saying both of them value Ayana more than themselves. Both of them act thinking about Ayana, and that thought cuts straight through Kana's resolve. Rico raised a steady gaze as the thought formed that in order for Ayana to be happy and live a happy life, a choice had to be made, the moment shifting as the resolve settled into what had to be done now. His voice calling out to Kana, while a clenched hand showed how feelings won't change. And in the soft glow below, Iona appeared with bright eyes and a warm smile, carrying the quiet wish to want Ayana to be happy, and for that, not minding getting hurt. Rika stands firm as the quiet wish to see Ayana smile again rises from within. Kana calling his name with a trembling gaze while the room holds its uneasy calm. The reminder of no time to waste echoes softly as she turns away, her step unsteady from strain that could cause another faint, and her eyes lower as the final guidance is offered as support. Then her heart opens in a fragile murmur, glad that the first boy ever liked was Riku, her expression gentle as he watches in silence. Hashimiya called him clueless and said Kurumin-kun must be very lonely, her tone sharp as she mentioned the stalker issue and how he innocently let her stay at his house. And Kurumin-kun looked confused as she claimed there must be another reason, his startled gaze rising from the floor, until she finally pointed straight at him and said it was his fault, her voice firm, while Kurumin-kun reacted with surprise as the air between them tightened with the heavy mix of accusation-worry. Rika lies back, admitting that Hashimiya is very kind, and saying it's because of that kindness that a body ends up lying there, speaking of delicious food, of being comforted when feeling sad, and of becoming useless. Hashimiya reacts with a firm goodness don't say nonsense glare. Then the scene shifts as Rika wakes up at Iona's apartment, greeted by Kana's soft "Rika wake up already," and a quiet "sorry thank you." The tension rises as she demands to know what is going to be done. Noting that Ayana didn't know how to deal with him and went home, Kana then faces him with calm resolve, saying that right now no one is suffering as much as Ayana, and that she has Ayana to go see. Iona's quiet words about facing the past drift through the room, while Riku is urged not to overexert himself. The scene opening on a calm town as tension settles over every thought. Iona stands alone, her gaze heavy as the feeling of being distant grows. And when Kana steps into view with soft hesitation, the question, is Ayana here? Memories of Kana and Kurumin-san, as a great fit brush through her mind, while Iona gently speaks of wanting to talk about the summer festival and other stuff, hangs between them until Kana trembles, blaming herself with it's my fault as her voice breaks. Rika's calm voice answers with not holding back. Kana stands frozen as Ayana breaks down, shouting sorry for ruining a life, and for taking away a beloved family. Ayana trembles, calling herself the worst person in the world who forgot sins that should never have been forgotten. And Kana steps in with soft words saying, "Don't punish yourself like that, because it's us, we know everything," turning the moment heavy until a sudden cry of Ayana from outside shatters the tension, forcing Rika toward the door just as Mamamon appears, calling out, "Hey, Rika-kun," pulling everyone out of the storm of guilt and regret in a single breath. Kana followed Maman-san after being called from the house, the air tense as the room revealed clutter and the soft complaint of "it's dirty." While Rika gave a small laugh, trying to ease the mood, Maman-san faced Kana, admitting not knowing but asking Iona about the accident, and the quiet moment settled as Kana added, "And Iona." The two sitting close while Rika watched, the weight of truth finally entering the room. Even as the cheerful image of Iona appears, the truth settles heavy. Her heart carries guilt, hurting itself every day, and that's it. A photo on the desk stands alone as the question rises, asking if Iona must continue living that life, trying to bear everything again and be alone. Across the room, the quiet voice explains that feelings don't disappear, even if memories are manipulated, and the thought lingers that if she loses memories again, nothing will truly change. Rika sat with tense focus, thinking of a heart that would definitely reach its limit, and a time that would come when she'd pay for all this, admitting not knowing what the future holds, but still facing it. Maman-san looked straight at him and said there was only one thing to say, asking what it was, her voice steady even as she leaned closer. Rika stands firm with a clenched hand, driven by a wish to see Iona smile again, a wish to spend happy days with her again, holding tight to the feeling of liking Iona as his resolve sharpens, while the scene shifts to Kana trembling as memories crash in, the weight of guilt spilling out as the words killed them echo in her mind. Iona faced the memory of the crashing scene, as the thought "it's my fault" echoed through the moment. Her eyes widened at how when the truth settled in, her voice low with "yeah, if it wasn't for her." Her trembling form sinking down, while the weight of none of this misfortune would have happened pressed into her heart. Iona leans close with empty eyes, her voice trembling as the words "wanting to die" and "wanting to disappear" spill OU, while Rika stares back with a very unpleasant feeling rising inside. Iona stands with dim eyes, whispering everything would be better if she didn't exist and muttering "must disappear." Her face calm but hollow, calling out "Rika-kun," and questioning really going to climb like that. While Rika watches from below with a tense gaze and a bad feeling as he climbs toward her. Iona sat curled up with a distant gaze, her quiet Iona drifting out as Rika stepped closer in concern, and his sudden Iona echoed as her hand pressed to the glass. Heart racing, he reached out again, calling Iona with rising panic, while her softer "you okay" slipped through trembling lips. Iona stood at the doorway with empty eyes as Rika reached toward her, his voice calling Iona while her faint "ohs" slipped out, and his tense thought wondered if she couldn't see him. Then the moment he pushed in, her arms suddenly wrapped around him, her quiet "Riku-kun" rising as their faces closed in. Iona faced Riku with trembling eyes as the soft word but rose from her lips, followed by a shaken "why," while Rika leaned close, calling out "it's Riku. No need to worry anymore," asking "do you recognize Iona?" as confusion clouded her gaze, and her voice broke into "all that comes is misfortune, and nothing good for Riku." While Riku answered with "don't say that. Without Iona nothing would remain." Yet Iona's thoughts spiraled into why was this life born, and not understanding any of it. Iona lay weak in Rika's arms, whispering "don't want to live anymore, and it was all my fault." Her eyes dull as her voice trembled with "if didn't exist, family would still be alive." Then her body collapsed as Rika shouted Iona, panic rising in his face, while Kana stepped in with a steady tone, saying "understand how Rika feels but think about how she feels." And Riku answered "yeah" before Kana decided from now on, live with her like used to, and added "she can sleep on my futon for now." Mono stands firm as the room fills with tension, her calm voice cutting into Rika's panic as she reminds him to think about it for a moment, saying she's going to spend the rest of her life feeling indebted to him. Her steady gaze follows Mono's fragile state, explaining that now that she's regained her memory, Rika pushes back, believing that together memory can overcome it, insisting but, as he remembers speaking with her grandmother recently, who promised to watch over her and check if she needs to be hospitalized. She can't bear it much longer, and the question rises sharply. Do you really think you can take care of her? Mono steps closer, her voice softer but unyielding, reminding him he's still a high schooler, and his determined expression tightens as the weight of it settles around him. Rika stands firm, frustration burning as the words "do you think just forget about it," and pretending it never happened won't solve anything push out of him. His resolve cutting through the tension, while the claim about being the guardian and wanting to keep him away sparks sharper determination. His voice rising with "I'll never run away from her," ever as he declares "I'll stay by her side and take care of her," his stance steady and unwavering. Rika sits tense as Mondo-san stands before him, her tone calm but firm, her words pressing into the room. She says, "Really, think about it for a moment." Iona stood with calm eyes as the offer settled in the room, saying it was okay to live with Rihanna-chan and asking to let her know whatever happens, while Riku answered with a steady "got it" and a quiet "thank you very much." Iona stepped closer, gently warning "don't strain yourself," and the air softened as she smiled when he said Mondo-san, trying to face the moment. Waved cheerfully, saying don't worry about it, and I should apologize too," while Rika gathered his courage, admitting about earlier, "I'm sorry, I said cruel things, like calling you just a guardian," making the room fill with a small, warm shift as both stood there, lighter than before. Mamono paused with a gentle breath, admitting that perhaps not all the facts had been considered, her gaze steady as she said it felt normal to help those who need help. And the thought made Rika's eyes widen as he quietly agreed with a soft "you're right," his mind drifting to Iona's face, her inner self, her usual face, her sleeping face, her annoyed face, even her worried face, each one flashing through his thoughts until a small laugh slipped from his lips, followed by a simple when he realized he liked everything. Yet the one he liked the most was the smile he hadn't seen for real yet, Iona's faint image glowing in his memory as the room fell still around them. Rika watched Iona move with that quiet, distant calm, her soft voice mentioning a defense mechanism to protect her broken heart. And Mamono stood nearby listening as he noticed how Iona once responded to his touch, but now even the bathroom seemed difficult for her. Mamono's calm promise, "let me know if anything happens," followed as she guided them through the hall, her presence steady while Iona walked with slow, tired steps. Riku opened the door and carried her inside, returning to the familiar room as Mamono whispered "welcome home, Iona," her tone warm and careful, and Riku added a gentle support with "I'll help you this time," trying to steady her trembling frame. Iona looked back at him with that fragile expression, a small quiet hum drifting from her lips as the room settled around them. Rika stood frozen, wondering how to make Iona react, watching her blank face as she sat quietly, then trying silly ideas that failed. Even the moment with 5 cockroaches leaving him in panic while she barely moved. And through that rush he reminded himself that such things had nothing to do with Iona or him. Then her calm eyes met his as he questioned whether he should maintain distance, only to glimpse a tiny shift when she whispered a soft "oh," a faint sign that she did react for a moment. And as he leaned closer with hope rising, Iona stayed expressionless while Rika shouted love with all his heart, chasing that one real reaction that still flickered somewhere inside her. Riko forced himself through stinging onions, getting a little excited as he followed Haruno's instruction, wiping his eyes and wondering if Haruno went through such torment every day for Iona. The pot boiled as he muttered that it was dangerous, checking if it was done while Iona watched in silence. 2 plates of curry were set on the table, steam rising, each glass lined beside the spoons. Iona stared at the curry with a blank face, so Rika decided to show how he ate, hoping for even a small reaction. While Iona sat quietly, her gaze fixed on the meal before her. Rika leans in with a small spoon, telling Iona to taste it, yet her quiet stare makes him wonder if she can eat on her own. He watches her gaze drift toward the curry, as he tries a bite himself and murmurs that it's delicious, then gently offers another spoon with a soft call of her name. And in that moment Iona's calm face moves closer as she accepts the food, leaving Rika stunned by the sight of Iona eating his food, and thinking how lovely it feels to see her react at last. Riku rushed toward the bathroom with a flustered face, trying to steady himself as the thought formed that Iona had always been alone and had never been pampered, and that he had to support her, his expression tightening with resolve while Iona watched in silence. Riku pauses outside the bathroom, breathing fast as nervous thoughts circle around a body described as beautiful. then stiffens when the sound of running water continues without stopping, the long wait twisting into worry as his eyes widen, and a sudden shout of no breaks out, pushing him toward Ayana in a rush of fear. Riku rushed toward the sound of running water, calling Ayana's name as cold spray poured over her unmoving form, her arms wrapped tightly around herself while her long hair clung to her skin. Shock flashed across his face as he realized the water was freezing, fear pushing him forward as he pulled her close, murmuring an apology while trying to warm her up quickly. Riku held her carefully, hearing her broken ah and sorry as she shook against him. Unsure what to do as her crying grew heavier, her face buried against his chest, whispering a small HM while trying to breathe through the pain. Riku reached Iona as she panicked on the bed, his voice steady with the words "it's okay" and Iona, calling her back as she trembled and cried out no, his hands gently holding her shaking arms while she clung to him for safety. He stayed by her side through the long, quiet hours, thinking how much longer this lifestyle would last as she slowly calmed down. In the dim room he watched her rest, and his thoughts tightened into a single question that echoed in his chest. How can Rika make Iona laugh? Rika slumped over his desk with heavy eyes, mumbling Kuramine's name as the teacher paused mid-lecture and stared in confusion, asking about sleep problems or a boring class, and Riku answered with a quiet sorry while trying to stay composed. The scene shifted to his lonely seat after class, arms crossed and gaze lowered, as his thoughts circled around the words "I know Mondo-san is watching her over while I'm here," but still, shaping a quiet worry that lingered beneath his calm expression. Rika stands before the two girls, answering softly with a tired face as he says he's fine and thanks them, while the white-haired girl leans closer with gentle worry and asks if Riku is okay, then offers help with calm eyes as he responds with a quiet yes maybe. The brown-haired girl steps in with firm energy, warning not to stay up too late, and the white-haired girl answers that Rika-chan is doing it willingly, her voice steady as she promises to watch over him as a childhood friend. Watching the two speak so naturally, the brown-haired girl wonders when they became so close, only to see the white-haired girl tug her sleeve and call her hurricanes, while another voice calls out Kana-chan, let's go, pulling her attention as the scene slips into a quiet tension. Rika stood at the doorway as Mamono mentioned a small problem, and Iona appeared sitting at the entrance, arms wrapped around herself, silent and unmoving. Her eyes lifted toward him the moment his name slipped from her lips. The soft call of Iona? As Mamono explained, she hadn't moved since Rika left for school. Rika stepped closer, stunned by her stillness and the quiet weight of her gaze, realizing she had waited for him the whole time. And Iona slowly reached out a hand toward him, as if drawn by nothing but his return. Rika stood with a troubled gaze as Mamono explained the problem, her voice calm yet firm, saying Iona didn't want to separate even when school called. And Iona quietly clung to his sleeve, while whispering today too, making him pause in silence. Mamono urged Riku to avoid skipping school for Iona-chan, but his eyes softened toward the trembling girl beside him, leading him to answer that he would stay, a choice that made Mamono breathe out and thanked him while admitting respect for his decision. Iona leaned closer with a small sound, and the room grew quiet as Mamono watched them both, clearly worried about not knowing what to do, while Rika's resolve formed around the simple wish to protect Iona's fragile calm for just a little longer. Rika lifted Iona gently in his arms, declaring that today he would stay with her, while Iona answered with a soft all right, her expression calm but distant as her long hair settled against him. Held close, she leaned into his chest as he asked what was wrong. A close look at Iona's quiet face brings a soft worry into the air. The words "if it's not here, she won't be able to live on her own" echoing, as Rika thinks about how even the day after tomorrow, at this rate, nothing will change. He moves through the room, washing up and glancing back toward the bed, knowing she won't let him go to school tomorrow either. His hand rubs his temple in silent strain, and when Iona suddenly pulls him into a tight embrace, the moment turns heavy and fragile all at once, leaving only one question lingering in his mind: that will happen? Rika stood frozen as Iona's grandmother entered with a heavy expression, softly saying she wanted to talk about Iona, and the question, what happened, hung in the air before she revealed herself as Iona's grandmother. Her calm footsteps filled the hall as she faced him, and the shock hit when she stated she needed to send Iona to a mental asylum. Rika's eyes widened at the sudden word, but the grandmother's resolve stayed firm as she added that she had already decided, reminding him that he hadn't been going to school and had trouble sleeping. Her voice urged, "Prioritize yourself," and the weight of her words pressed on him while he stayed silent, watching her determined gaze. In the end, she said she would take Iona there the day after tomorrow, and thanked him very much for everything. Iona stands silent as Rika murmurs sorry, the thought of parting in 2 days hanging heavily between them, her expression unreadable as the words she doesn't say settle in the air. His voice trembles with powerlessness, admitting sorry, Iona, and saying there is nothing that can be done, calling himself delusional for not doing anything. Tears fall as he thinks of hurting her, even though he loves her so much, calling out Iona in despair. Iona then turns toward him with a soft her quiet gaze meeting his shaken one as the moment freezes in fragile tension. Iona stared softly as Rika's voice wavered with Iona, and her eyes lifted in a quiet search before whispering Reka-kuing, the gentle confusion filling her expression. Rika's trembling question Iona, "Do you know who Reku is?" met her calm reply, "It's nothing, I'm fine." Even as her gaze moved closer, noticing Rika-kuing, why crying? The sight of tears reflected in her eyes. Riku's broken whisper Riku, followed as the two faced each other in the stillness, their emotions tightening the air around them, while Iona stood quietly, watching his heart tremble. Rika pulled Iona close, his heart racing as the person he loved called his name, her surprised eyes softening against his warmth, and in that rush of emotion his resolve surged as a single vow echoed inside him. Iona called out to Riku as the news of recovered memory settled in, and Riku pulled her close, saying he would stay like that until satisfied, leaving her blushing while asking how long. His calm mention of feeding and bathing all this time made her jump back with a flustered protest that it was enough. Rika then turned away, saying fine and going in alone, while Iona's shy question about bathing together again hung in the air, filling the moment with warm, awkward tension. Iona looked down, saying Rico had seen everything and caused a lot of trouble, while Riku answered calmly that it didn't bother him that much and held her gently, telling her it was okay. Her eyes softened as she admitted that until now she had only been alone, and Riku replied that summer break was over, leaving her sitting quietly at the table, while the feeling of being alone, all this time, slowly eased in his steady presence. Iona lay in bed saying the warm room still felt a bit chilly, while Rika noticed the long sleeves and gently asked to see her sleeve, making her stare back with worry and wonder if it was her fault before he quietly suggested sleep. A tense silence followed as Rika watched her resting form, thinking that saying something would probably make things worse. Yet her peaceful face made him believe everything would be fine if with Iona, and he whispered a soft goodnight as the room settled into calm darkness. Iona stepped into the room with a gentle call, asking if Rika was awake, and her warm presence made Rika stare wide-eyed, feeling like peaceful days had returned and wondering if this was not a dream. Iona offered a soft good morning, holding her sleeve shyly as Rika blushed and followed her calm guidance, letting her check him while she asked if he was still half asleep. With steady hands she moved closer, telling Rika not to move, and reminding him about teeth next, creating a quiet morning filled with soft care, surprise, and the comforting rhythm of living together again. Iona guided Rika's head gently, saying she would brush his teeth, while Rika stared in shock, wondering if this was really happening and feeling carried away as she watched him with calm focus, turning the moment into a warm mix of fluster and quiet care. Iona stepped into the bathroom with calm eyes, asking if Rika didn't want to do this with her, while Rika panicked and insisted everything before was only because of the circumstances, his face burning as Iona mentioned memories of him doing it with her and seeing everything. She stood quietly, asking again with a steady gaze, but Riku, flustered and overwhelmed, told her to get out because he was almost done and they would talk later. Iona gave a small all right before stepping back, leaving Rika breathing hard under the shower, caught between confusion, embarrassment, and the weight of her quiet plea. Iona rested on the bed with a soft blush as Rico entered, trying to talk about earlier, and her quiet call told him it was okay, reaching out with gentle eyes. Rico stiffened in surprise when she pulled him close, her trembling voice admitting that she liked him, while Rico panicked and said he didn't want it to be this way. insisting they needed to talk as the moment hung between them with confusion and fragile emotion. Iona stopped Riku with a soft enough talk, her eyes steady as he tried to explain that their feelings should be clear first, and that the mood for those things should be different. But Iona pushed back with a trembling no, and asked to make it up to him, tears gathering as she confessed she liked Riku a lot. Riku's expression softened, happy to hear those words yet worried that Iona might be forcing herself, leaving the moment filled with quiet emotion, gentle conflict, and two hearts trying to meet honestly. Iona lay with a soft, guilty look, saying she felt that way because Rika worked hard every day, while Rika gently reminded her that she was the one forcing herself, and that there was nothing she needed to make up for. Her eyes wavered as he realized that was why she had been doing all of this, and her trembling voice called his name before confessing she didn't want to be a bother. Riku answered with quiet kindness, saying he didn't want to see her crying and wanted to see her happy, filling the moment with honesty, worry, and a gentle hope between them. Rika stepped outside, troubled by how much Iona blamed herself, and said he would go out while she slept, then called Haruno for clarity. Haruno gently asked if something was wrong, and Riko asked if he had ever been a bother, making her pause before admitting things had been difficult, but that since the accident, she had clung to him too. Her calm words under the night sky helped him understand Iona's feelings a little more. Haruno spoke with a calm smile, saying strange rumors never made her think anyone was a bother, and her gentle pause carried a quiet, "I knew it, I see," as her eyes softened. She brightened while saying childhood friends are connected by a bond like family, a warm thought that echoed as Rika listened with steady focus. She shared how more than anything she wanted to be support, and the moment shifted to a soft memory of figures standing together, a reminder that even if family can be troublesome, the heart never sees them as a problem. Rika stood under the moonlit sky, absorbing Haruno's words, understanding now. Thoughts shifted to Iona's words, what should be done for her, the resolve building. The heart raced with the desire to not lose what was important, the realization finally clear. Rika stood with a shy but sincere expression, confessing love, and Iona responded with a gentle smile, saying it was good. Their eyes met as Iona quietly confessed liking him, waiting for his reply. Rika's words followed, confessing the same feelings, love overflowing, as he said he liked her too. Iona, still uncertain, asked if he liked her, her gaze filled with hope and nervousness, unsure of what to expect next. Rika stood, his expression filled with concern, as Iona's words cut deep, questioning if anyone understood what had happened. She snapped, saying the accident was her fault, her face tight with emotion. Rika's voice softened, acknowledging the truth, but Iona continued, her eyes full of guilt, revealing the crushing weight she carried, admitting, "I am the one who killed them." The tension was thick, the pain of unspoken burdens weighing heavy between them. Riku, with a gentle yet firm expression, spoke about how hard it must be for Iona to forgive herself, knowing the weight of her guilt. Iona, with pain in her eyes, nodded in agreement, acknowledging that the event was unforgettable and impossible not to feel guilty about. Riku, determined, continued, saying she would be shocked by how much he loved her, his voice filled with sincerity. Iona, looking vulnerable, blinked in surprise, her heart racing as she asked. The tension hung in the air, a moment of honesty and deep emotion shared between them. Iona, looking worried, hesitates, not wanting to drag him into her struggles. The moment is filled with silent understanding and a shared promise. Rika smiles gently at Kana, reassuring her that he doesn't mind facing a tough life as long as it's with her. Rika leans close with calm resolve, lifting Kanan's hand as warm hope fills his eyes, speaking of being a family, stirring Kanan's heart as she stares back in quiet shock. Her gaze softens as Rika steps forward with steady courage, promising to be by her side until the day she can forgive herself, creating a moment heavy with emotion and a bright promise rising between them. Riku, still groggy from waking up, stands in the doorway, worried about Kana overexerting herself. Sitting on the bed, softly asks if it's okay to go to school, her expression uncertain. Iona's face brightens, and she agrees, with Rika confidently stating they should go together. Iona, determined, explains how she's been absent for so long and is eager to return. Rika reassures her, telling her it's fine, and then, with a hint of a smile, asks if he can request something. Rika laughs, finding Conan cute. Conan looks confused but curious, tilting her head as she wonders what he means. The moment is filled with light-hearted fun. Rika stands, ready to leave, casually suggesting it's time to go. Iona, glancing at him, remarks that it's been a while since they've been in this situation. She smiles as she notices how cute he looks, the familiar sight bringing back many memories. Riku, looking a bit thoughtful, mentions needing to apologize to Kana, showing a quiet sense of responsibility, as Iona looks at him with a gentle expression. Everyone in the class is staring, whispering, and watching Riku and Iona as they walk together. Kana, clearly uncomfortable with the attention, looks uneasy as she walks behind them. Riku discussed the situation, with Iona mentioning how the rumor about the accident has spread across the class, that only their class knows about it, and that Kana had asked her not to tell the rest. Rika thanks Haruno for helping him out, relieved that Iona's situation is being kept under control. Haruno reassures him, saying the others don't know everything about Iona. Riku, slightly concerned, begins searching for Iona, wondering where she has gone. He questions where she might have been during the break. Riku and Iona walk together, with Riku noticing that everyone seems to be staring at them, though she reveals that she's eating alone in a bathroom now, just as she did before. Riku, surprised, asks if she ate there during the break, to which Iona answers, yes. Iona, a bit nonchalant, responds that she's used to it. Riku, clearly concerned, recalls how she was bullied in the past, and Iona admits that people used to throw things at her. Still uneasy, as they continue walking, Reko asks if Iona plans to speak to Kona, but Iona remains silent, leaving Riku to ponder the situation as they walk through the school. She adds that Kana had said she would support her, even though she also mentioned being liked by her. Riku, with a concerned expression, asks Iona if she's mad at Kana. Iona shakes her head, saying she's not. Riku, trying to make sense of the situation, admits he's not sure what to do or say to Kana anymore. Iona, with a smile, reassures him that he looks better with her, but Riku, feeling conflicted, admits that things are complicated. He mentions that he only lives for Iona, and she, looking slightly puzzled, asks why. Rika then hesitates, mentioning that if he approaches Kana, it might make her feel bad. Iona, seemingly confident, brushes it off, saying she's a killer and not worried about it. Riku, walking alongside Iona, expresses his concern about talking to Kana, wishing her good luck. Riku, smiling, tells Iona he wants her to be with him when he talks to Kana, to which Iona agrees. Later, Riku is impressed by a plate of spaghetti, exclaiming how delicious it looks. Iona, with a curious look, asks if he means that the appearance is plain. Riku, flustered, quickly tries to explain that he meant it looks normal, trying to clarify his comment about the food, while Iona looks at him with an amused expression. Riku, deep in thought, expresses his desire to continue the future together and form a family with Iona, making him happy. Iona, looking slightly worried, assures him that she's okay with it, but feels it's complicated. Riku, thinking about Kana, asks Iona for her thoughts on the matter. Meanwhile, Kana, concerned, wonders what's wrong with Riku and mentions that she's drying her hair. Riku, now more focused, asks Kana if she has time to talk, and as she agrees, Rika proceeds with his apology, acknowledging the situation is complicated. The weight of Rika's emotions and the need to make things right linger in the air. Riku, deep in thought, reflects on his relationship with Iona, admitting that if he gets too close to her, things might fall apart. Iona, seemingly determined, assures him she'll take care of it, though Riku remains unsure. He then thinks about his past with Iona, acknowledging that she resembles the kind of girl he used to protect. Iona, smiling, points out that Riku and she seem to say and act in similar ways. Riku, a little surprised, asks why, and Iona teasingly says that they are best friends. Riku, with a small smile, looks thoughtful, wondering if Iona should be there when he meets Conan. Iona, looking serious, tells Conan that she should think of her as an object, and that she's sorry for making her come over. Connor, visibly upset, responds with a sad smile, saying she's happy to hear that but that it's complicated. Iona, her expression softening, apologizes again, and explains that she did something very bad, confessing that she fell in love with Riku and made Iona suffer. Kana, looking pained, lifts her head and accepts Iona's apology. But Iona adds that there's more. She kissed Riku on the cheek, which causes Kanan to freeze shocked. Kana, looking even more confused, asks why Iona kissed him, and Iona, seeming embarrassed, explains that she pushed him down in underwear, which only makes Iona even more flustered. Iona, with a determined look, tells Kona that only after being hit will things be even between them. Kana, surprised, hesitates but agrees. Iona then takes a deep breath, preparing herself. With a swift motion, she slaps Conan on the cheek, leaving Kana stunned for a moment. Kana, still in shock but relieved, nods and confirms everything is good now. Afterward, Iona, her expression softening, says she's glad they've patched things up. Kona, still uncertain, is asked by Iona if she wants to go to the dog cafe tomorrow. Kana, hesitating, is confused at first, but Iona clarifies that she meant to invite her, not leaving her out. Iona, cheerfully explaining that she wants to go with Riku, tries to reassure Kana that everything will be fine. Riku, a bit hesitant, mentions feeling lonely if he's left out, but agrees to the plan. Kana, though still unsure, agrees to go, and Iona excitedly says she'll get going. The scene feels lighthearted, filled with a mix of awkwardness and a subtle hope to patch things up. Riku, walking outside, is caught off guard as Haruno calls out to him, telling him not to bother her anymore and to be careful of perverts. She waves goodbye, and Riku, surprised, calls her name. Haruno? She smiles and continues on her way, leaving him puzzled. Haruno asks Riku if he was at Iona's house, and Riku confirms it. Haruno then asks if she cleaned everything, and Riku replies that it's his duty to keep the house spotless. Haruno asks Riku about Iona, confirming that she went to a dog cafe with Kana. Riku responds, mentioning that Iona is recovering well, and thanks Haruno for everything. She suggests they clean the floor together, and Riku agrees, saying he'll help too. Haruno wonders about how the others, like Iona, are doing and mentions that things are more understanding now compared to middle school. Riku, still thinking about Iona, seems reassured by Haruno's words. Riku is reminded of the past by a conversation about his lie to help Iona. He reflects on how much time has passed, thinking that it feels like it has been a long time, although it hasn't even been a year. He also recalls the trauma from his high school years, when he locked himself away from the world after his family's death. Riku is left thinking about how much things have changed and how much time has passed since that incident. Riku reflects on his past, thinking about how Haruno was the only person he was close to, and how he was rejected when he confessed. If that rejection hadn't happened, he believes he would have never met Iona. Haruno, smiling, teases him about getting captivated by her, noting that childhood friends are the best, which makes Rika realize that his happiness stems from Haruno. He smiles back at her, feeling grateful for their connection. In this scene, the characters are looking at a group of cute puppies in a dog cafe. Haruno and Iona are excited, and Haruno remarks about how adorable they are, with her voice full of cheer. Meanwhile, Riku, a bit distracted, is caught off guard as Iona mentions him. Iona, holding a fluffy dog, teases him, commenting on how cute the puppy is, and even pointing out that one of them shares his name. Riku is surprised and unsure of how to respond, leading to a light-hearted moment as Iona continues to smile playfully. Riku is surprised and unsure of how to respond, leading to a light-hearted moment as Iona continues to smile playfully. In the scene, Haruno and Kana are talking about Rika's caring nature, with Haruno mentioning how kind he is. Iona seems concerned as she talks about Riku and how much he cares for the person she's speaking to. She reflects on how Riku seems to be overexerting himself, probably due to his personal struggles. She wonders aloud if this person has asked Riku about his feelings and suggests that offering him something in return for his kindness might help. However, there's some hesitation in the conversation as Iona questions whether this would actually make Rika happy. Despite the doubts, Haruno continues to express concern, reinforcing that offering something back may be the right thing to do, all while Iona seems to carefully consider the idea. In this scene, Iona is seen talking about how Rika must be feeling lonely, and she seems a bit sad about it. She tells Kana that Riku is struggling and trying too hard, while Kana responds with her own concern. She is also worried about the situation and suggests that they may need to offer Rika something back to make him feel better. They start to think about what gift could bring him joy, as it seems important to find the right way to show care and gratitude. There's a sense of determination to find the best way to support Riku, which is a key focus in the moment. Iona, holding the item, stares at it in disbelief. Her gaze shifts to Riku, eyes widening as she softly exclaims, "Rika-kun?" The others, noticing Iona's surprise, look on with curiosity. Her focus returns to the object, and she comments, "By the way, doesn't that girl look like Riona-chan?" As realization dawns on her, she remarks, "I didn't know he had something like this." With a decisive look, Iona states, "I confiscated it." The room is filled with a quiet tension, as everyone takes in the unexpected turn of events. Iona presents something, calling it her present. The group reacts, surprised and unsure, with Iona showing off the page. Kana suggests it might be too much, but Iona insists this is the best gift. The plan shifts to adding a goodnight kiss and a hug, but the conversation steers toward wondering if Iona has ever done something like this before. Rika's excitement over surprises is revealed, as it's mentioned that when he receives a gift, he can't help but get super excited. A flashback shows Rika laughing hard when his grandparents surprised him during his birthday. It was truly fun, but now Rika hates birthdays. Haruno feels guilty, thinking that she might be the reason why. She explains that Rika doesn't like the feeling of leaving his sister and parents behind. In this image, Haruno acknowledges her past actions, admitting that she needs to face it once and for all. She expresses regret for what she said earlier, but Iona reassures her, saying it's okay. The conversation shifts to discussing Rika's dislike for birthdays. Iona reveals her intention to make Riku like birthdays again, and Haruno agrees to try, even if it feels difficult. Iona reflects on her plan to make Rika happy, and asks if Haruno has done something like that before, while Haruno responds with a hesitant no, but she agrees to help. Riku, standing in front of his door, looks perplexed and confused, as a voice from inside announces that today is a sleepover party. Meanwhile, Iona and Kana discuss the excitement surrounding the event, revealing that Riku cannot make it today. As Riku is being called in, his focus shifts between the noise from his friends and his own inner turmoil. The plan is set. The group decides to distract Riku by having Chiharu entertain him while the cake is being baked. Iona, feeling determined, insists on making Riku enjoy his birthday again. Meanwhile, everyone prepares, and the excitement builds as the cake appears, with the girls marveling at how delicious it looks. Rika walks alone, seemingly lost in thought, when he suddenly recalls the excitement surrounding a recent event. Meanwhile, Iona, holding documents and smiling, tells him he didn't do anything wrong. Riku, slightly confused, wonders about the significance of the documents while cheerful demeanor brings a sense of unexpected joy to the moment. The elderly man, looking distressed, stares at the young boy, his eyes filled with concern and disbelief. He expresses shock at seeing him again, asking why he came. With a mixture of worry and confusion, he asks about the robbery and checks if he's okay, also inquiring about the money in school. Rika walks in silence, his mind heavy as he processes his grandfather's emotional words, asking why he'd been abandoned. His grandfather, troubled and confused, questions why Riku is here now. Riku, his expression closed off, simply responds with the suggestion that they speak at home. His grandfather, still in shock, watches as Rika turns away, an unspoken tension between them. Rika stands in the room, facing his grandfather's concerned and puzzled expression. His grandfather, with a heavy look, asks if Rika still sees him as the god of misfortune, wondering if he's been abandoned. The old man then turns the conversation to how his wife is doing, asking if she's still upset. Riku, with a stoic face, responds, confirming that she is indeed feeling down, but doesn't offer much else. The old man's eyes fill with regret, as he admits that it was a coincidence, while Riku, with a quiet expression, acknowledges it, mentioning how even his grandma used to call him that. In the final panel, Rika looks deeply troubled while thinking about the challenges he's faced with his family. The old man, full of regret, reflects on how his wife, Rika's grandmother, once carried a grudge against him, and mentions that people around him have suffered due to his actions. Riku, now trying to maintain composure, reassures him with a simple, "It was a coincidence," despite the heaviness of the situation. The elderly man, Rika's grandfather, looks distressed and speaks with a deep concern. He wonders aloud if his granddaughter still sees him as the cause of all the misfortune that surrounds their family, his face reflecting years of pain. Riku, standing across from him, listens quietly, his expression unreadable as he responds to the heavy words. The old man tries to justify the situation, explaining that it was an accident, not something he had control over, his guilt weighing on him. The atmosphere grows tense as Riku, visibly troubled, reassures him it was just a coincidence. Though his words reveal lingering pain, Rika's grandfather, with a pained expression, asks if Rika still hates him, questioning if he's seen as the cause of misfortune. He explains that his family died in an accident. Riku, looking conflicted, responds that it was just a coincidence, but the grandfather, still troubled, wonders about the pain they both carry. Riku, looking somewhat uneasy, says he is dating Ayana, which shocks his grandfather. Rika's grandfather, noticing him being quiet, comments on how rare it is to find a good girl like that, and suggests Riku should tell her how he feels as a man. The grandfather repeats her name in disbelief, and Riku confirms, saying, "Ayana," with a look of surprise. With resolve, Riku responds calmly, expressing his intention to spend his life with Ayana. Riku stands firm, in disbelief, asks if Riku is serious, especially considering Iona's parentage. Facing his grandfather's sharp gaze as the old man demands an answer, questioning what Riku would say to his deceased family. Riku remains steadfast, confirming his relationship with Ayana and dismissing the past. His grandfather, taken aback by Rika's words, struggles to process the bold declaration. Riku and his grandfather stand outside, the tension thick between them, as the old man expresses his disbelief at Rika's decision to marry Ayana. Despite his grandpa's worries, Rika calmly declares that he will marry her, refusing to be swayed. The grandfather urges him to reconsider, stressing how people will judge him, but Riku remains unshaken, insisting that he wants to live his life with Ayana. With a quiet, resolute tone, Riku explains that he knows how his grandfather feels, showing that the decision isn't made lightly, despite all the tragedy in their past. Riku declares he wants to make Ayana happy and marry her, showing determination. He knows it will take time, but is committed to making it happen. Rika stands determined, stating his intention to move forward in life. His grandfather acknowledges his progress, but still expresses concern. Riku responds with a sense of resolve, ready to continue with his path despite the difficulties. Riku sits tired, asking what Ayana is doing there. Ayana replies with a smile, explaining that Haruno gave her a copy of his keys. Riku is confused, wondering why she has them, and Ayana teases him with a surprise. She then reveals that the surprise is a set of keys, asking why he's so surprised. Riku, looking at the birthday cake, smiles brightly, expressing that this is the best surprise he has ever received. Amazed by the surprise, Ayana, standing beside him, watches with a soft, warm expression. She tells him to go ahead, and as he notices the inscription on the cake, his face lights up. Riku is happily surprised as he receives a gift, a watch from Ayana. Ayana, smiling, explains that she also has another gift for him, which she got after asking Haruno and Kana for help. Riku, a bit flustered, wonders if the watch is more expensive than his current one, and Ayana assures him that the one he has is just fine. She brings a birthday cake and expresses how much she values this moment with him, asking when he last had such a fun birthday. Ayana softly says that she has something else to give him, a heartfelt moment between them. Riku is curious, asking what it could be, and Ayana teases with a sweet smile, hinting at her true gift is all of herself. Rika wakes up and looks around, realizing Ayana is not there. He wonders where she could have gone so early. He checks the door and hears a voice saying Ayana hasn't mentioned anything. The voice reassures him, mentioning Ayana stayed with him the previous night. Riku, still puzzled, begins to process the situation, his face showing slight concern mixed with confusion. He recalls that yesterday Ayana was acting normal, but was mumbling a lot. Kana suggests Ayana might be hiding out of embarrassment, recalling how she must have been waiting in the room all this time. Riku wonders if Ayana might have heard them. wondering if she went to the accident site by train. Mamono then informs Riku that they've already contacted Iona. Riku, looking puzzled, questions if Iona went somewhere alone. He shakes his head, pushing forward, saying he'll go too. That a voice calls out, asking if he's okay, his expression full of concern. Flashbacks haunt him, remembering that day. Rika stares at the memory, struggling with the thought of his family dying in that place. A soft voice calls out, Onie-chan, but Riku, lost in thought, can only respond with a quiet. Sitting nearby, asks if Rika feels better from the cold. He stands, his attention fixed on her, as she sits, seemingly carefree. Meanwhile, Riku remains calm, holding up a game cover with a smile, trying to lighten the mood. Riku looks at her, a smile forming as he realizes she's still upset, but concerned about his health. With a sigh, Iona expresses her anger, clearly frustrated. She looks at him, her annoyance softening a little, but the irritation lingers. She can't help but express how his attitude frustrates her. But Rika brushes it off, laughing it off, focusing on the small moments of happiness amidst the tension. Rico stands with a slight grin as Iona, sitting across from him, suggests lending him some manga. She reminds him that he had wanted to read them earlier. He playfully comments that this is what happens with a sister. Despite the teasing, the moment feels light and filled with a sense of familiar warmth between the two. Riku, looking a bit surprised, listens as she tells him how obvious he is, to which Riku responds with a chuckle, noticing how she knows him so well, suggesting that Rika must be feeling lonely, offering to stay with him since he has a cold, as she speaks softly about how, if only he had listened back then, things might have turned out differently. She expresses sympathy. The heavy realization of the past weighs on Riku as he tries to grasp the full impact of her words. A sudden jolt hits him, and he remembers in that moment, his mind racing to understand the depth of the situation. Rico slowly wakes up, his vision blurry as the concerned voices of the girls fill the room. Haruno anxiously asks if Riku is okay, while Kana apologizes for leaving without saying anything. They all express their relief as Rico, still groggy, reassures them that nothing hurts and he feels fine. Their face softens as she checks on him, her concerns still evident. Rika tries to make sense of the situation, processing their words while feeling the weight of their worry around him. The three girls look surprised and ask, as they stare at the unfamiliar figures before them. While Iona laughs and explains the situation as a joke, Rika stares in surprise, asking where they've met before. The girl beside Iona, seemingly embarrassed, wonders about the identity of the other two, while Iona excitedly announces herself as Iona, eager to introduce herself to Riku. Kana watches, somewhat amused, while Riku remains confused. The three girls stood frozen, looking at Riku, their faces filled with surprise and confusion. Each of them, clearly startled by the sight in front of them, asked the same question. The thought of him forgetting about her hurt deeply, reminding her of how she had done the same to him. Iona stands with a pained expression, her thoughts reflecting the hurt of being forgotten. She finds it unbearable when someone she cares for forgets about her, feeling the same way when Ricky doesn't remember her. She recalls the painful moment when Rika cried, acting like everything was fine, even though it must have hurt him deeply. The thought of him being in such pain makes her reflect on the situation, remembering what happened at Soida-san's house, and feeling the weight of everything that has occurred. Iona walks down the hallway, her thoughts heavy with the pain of Riku forgetting her. She wonders if he might have blocked out everything related to the accident, even forgetting her. With a sigh, she acknowledges that she still doesn't know what happened to him. As they speak, Iona silently vows that if Rika forgot her, she would make him fall in love with her again. Kona, walking beside her, admires Iona's strength, feeling small in comparison. Rika sits quietly, unaware of the situation unfolding around him, while Kona asks Iona about Rika's memory. Haruno looks concerned, explaining that Rika remembers some things, but has forgotten Iona and Kana, recalling only his life before being rejected. Kana looks down, saddened. Iona's emotional turmoil shows as she thinks about making Rika fall in love with her again, if he truly forgot. Kana tells Iona that it will take time for Riku to adjust, and asks her to bring him his things. Kana then asks if Iona understands what this means. Iona responds, saying she understands and decides to return the items to Riku. Iona responds calmly, acknowledging she understands, and explains that she is returning it. Iona carefully holds something in her hand, preparing to return it. Haruno asks if Iona understands what it means to give this back. She recognizes how hard he worked. Iona looks down with a heavy expression, her thoughts focused on the struggles Riku has been through. But as she observes the situation, she begins to feel that it's better to let him go rather than let him suffer. She quietly concludes that she shouldn't be by his side anymore. Kana reflects on the time before the accident, remembering how Riku used to be lively like a bird, full of energy and life. She wonders if he would have returned to that state if Iona had been there. But after the accident, everything changed. She worries about what might happen if Riku remembers everything, feeling unsure of what would be best for him. Despite everything, she hopes that if he can't return to the way he was, at least he can find peace and happiness. Riku are at school after his discharge from the hospital, and can't help but feel that something important is slipping her mind. Meanwhile, a friend mentions a bet, but Haruno quickly cuts in, reminding her that Riku is still adjusting, and it may take time for him to remember things. Kana seems lost in thought, perhaps sensing the gravity of the situation. Haruno's focus shifts as she starts to worry about Riku remembering things from the past, showing concern for his well-being. Rika stood still, looking at Kana, feeling an overwhelming distance between them. She feels a bit distant, Rika thought, but the words didn't seem to match the reality. Iona answered with disbelief. Haruno, noticing the tension, asked, "Does it hurt?" Rika quickly shook his head and responded, "Not at all," but the unspoken words still lingered in the space between them. Haruno thanked Kana for her help, acknowledging how important it was. Kana hesitated, then said that if Riku remembers, he would surely fly away from her. Haruno looked at her, her expression showing the heaviness of the words, and added that Rika would fly away from her when he remembers. Rika walked beside Haruno, noticing a strange emptiness inside him. He felt something was different, yet couldn't place what it was. Haruno noticed his distant expression and asked if something was bothering him. Riku, feeling out of sorts, questioned if he looked strange. Haruno, looking concerned, simply said he seemed tired, but there was an underlying sadness in her voice, unsure of how to help. Haruno apologized to Riku for the inconvenience, then quickly asked him to move aside, annoyed. Riku stepped back, apologizing again, but Haruno seemed distant, her frustration clear. She walked off, leaving Riku unsure of what had just happened. Riku, still unsure about the situation, asks for her name. After a brief pause, responds with Kana. Riku recalls the time he was in the hospital and thanks her for the kindness. Riku, still processing his thoughts, recalls the time when he fainted and was treated kindly by someone nearby, wondering if it's just a coincidence. Haruno, standing next to him, asks if Riku is interested in Kana-chan. Riku, confused, wonders if he's forgetting something. Haruno, slightly irritated, scolds him for getting involved when he wasn't supposed to, mentioning that it was against the rules. Haruno, looking serious, reflects that Riku will remember things on his own, and it's best for him. The silver watch reminds her of her grandfather, but she can't recall who bought the black one. Meanwhile, Riku stands outside, lost in thought, feeling like the night sky has changed, feeling different from before. Haruno quietly acknowledges that it's better for Riku to focus on Iona. Haruno thinks about the girl she saw in the hospital room. She wonders if she might be forgetting something, and reflects on how she was treated kindly by her. Meanwhile, Iona, now in another room, asks if she has finished tidying up. Iona responds, agreeing that Connor is right, and then mentions that life is long and someone better will come along. Kana, with a thoughtful expression, agrees and then wonders what's up with Iona. Rika watches Kana as she scolds him, calling him an idiot for getting carried away. Kana insists that she's fine, but Riko asks if her memory is okay, prompting Kana to scold him again. Riko apologizes and tries to explain himself, but she dismisses him. She adds that unlike Riku, she can call him by his name, and Riko realizes they're familiar with each other. Kana becomes defensive when Riko asks about her, snapping at him. Kana tells Riku goodbye and leaves without revealing more about the friend from the hospital. As she walks away, Riku considers how they appear like a couple, though Ayana dismisses it with a quiet response. Riku, caught up in the moment, thinks of the passing seasons and the unease in their relationship, asking if Ayana would leave. Haruno reassures him, promising never to abandon him. Kana walks away, leaving Riku puzzled. He asks if she's talking about him, and he wonders about her intentions, which leaves him confused. Kana suddenly stops and calls out for him to stop following her. Then, Kana looks at him and sarcastically mentions, "Is Hashimiya Ayana? Does that name ring a bell?" She turns, a bit frustrated, telling him not to spy on her. Riku, feeling embarrassed, tries to understand what she's talking about, and the situation grows a bit more intense. And Kana simply brushes it off, walking away, leaving Riku to wonder what's happening. Riku gets flustered, struggling to recall. Pana remains distant, offering no explanation to Riku as she turns away. Riku, confused, asks her about something, but she coldly tells him not to ask, hinting at something forgotten. Connor continues, mentioning that if Rika wants to understand, he'll have to figure it out himself. With frustration evident in her tone, she warns him that no progress will be made unless he puts in the effort. She explains that if Rika stays close to Haruno, he won't be able to recall anything. Riku, still perplexed, tries to respond but is quickly dismissed. Kana suggests that Riku could try walking around during the summer holidays, looking for answers. As she walks away, Riku, with a resigned expression, follows her advice, unsure of what to do next. Riku watches Kana walk away, lost in thought. She tells him good luck as she leaves. He stands still, feeling uncertain as Kana disappears into the distance. The scenery around him feels unchanged, the same neighborhood, the same route to school, but it all seems distant, leaving him with a deep sense of confusion. His mind drifts to a memory of a parfait, which seemed too overwhelming but tasted delicious. He rubs his head, unsure of the connection to his current thoughts, then decides to focus on the moment, trying to push through the uneasy feeling. Rika wonders if he has been here before, feeling unsure as he looks around. Rika stands at the train station, unsure if he has taken this route often before. He wonders aloud, "Did I use this train a lot before?" but is uncertain. He asks himself where he is heading, feeling confused, yet he decides to board the train anyway. The familiar station scenery doesn't seem to make sense to him, and he continues to question his memory. As he reflects, he experiences a brief moment of realization. Riku, sitting on his bike, reflects on how much he spent on fares, unsure of why he is distancing himself from Haruno. He seems amused but also slightly worried. As he rides, he notices that his body is gaining some stamina, though the strain is clear on his face. His frustration grows as he curses the situation, upset that the tire went flat while he was in the middle of the mountain. He wonders if the flat tire was due to overuse, sighing in exasperation. Rika walks along the path, frustrated and sweating as he realizes he'll have to walk instead of riding. Rika walks past the convenience store, wondering if he has been there before. The feeling of familiarity lingers in his mind as he notices something strange, sensing that something significant happened at that very place. His curiosity grows, but before he can think more about it, he continues on his way. Riku walks toward the apartment, feeling a strange sense of nostalgia and happiness wash over him as he recalls memories of the place. The more he thinks about it, the more familiar it seems, but he remains unsure. Despite the confusion, a sense of relief lingers as he continues walking, the memories and feelings blending together in a mix of comfort and uncertainty. Rika stands in front of the door, the feeling of familiarity washing over him. He reaches for the door handle, which creaks open without resistance. As he steps inside, the room seems to trigger distant memories, but uncertainty lingers. Rika stands in the room, realization dawning on him as memories begin to resurface. He touches his face, overcome by guilt, thinking about the girl he had forgotten. The name Hashimiya Ayana echoes in his mind as he remembers something important, yet feels a sense of confusion and loss. The weight of his forgotten connection weighs on him, leaving him with a feeling of regret. Rika stood in the middle of the scene, his confusion growing. Girls, appearing from behind, asked why he was there, with a touch of surprise in her voice. She pointed out how Riku had been wandering around aimlessly, noting that he had distanced himself from Kana. She mentioned that Kana had been going in circles, but today was her last round. Haruno then dropped a bombshell, explaining a bet made with Ayana. If Rika couldn't remember the details, he would be asked to visit the accident site. Haruno made it clear that if Rika forgot, she would continue to protect him, but if he remembered, she would push him away from her life. The tension in the air hung thick as the weight of the words settled in. Rika was faced with the urgency of his own feelings, unsure whether to push through his discomfort. Haruno's voice echoed in his mind as she advised him not to force himself. Yet, with determination in his heart, Riku refused to back down. He made his decision clear. He would move forward, no matter the obstacles. As the conversation shifted, warned him that pushing himself too hard could lead to serious consequences. She questioned whether his memory could handle it once again. But with resolve, Riku continued undeterred. Haruno, watching closely, confirmed that if he were to go, the responsibility was his. She sighed, acknowledging his choice, yet added that he needed to come back safely. Riku, still struggling, was urged by Kana to hop on her bike for a speedy ride. She had been running since leaving the convenience store and could see Rika struggling to keep up. Though she noticed him wobbling, there was no time to waste. She needed to rush to the station. In a desperate moment, Riku asked for Kana's last name, confused by something he couldn't quite recall. Kana quickly dismissed the concern, telling him to forget about her and go after Ayana, thanking her for the help. However, as Rika walked down the road, his body felt the rejection of the effort. A sharp pain in his head reminded him of the accident site. Rico continued walking with determination, remembering Ayana's smile, her gentle face, and how he longed to see it again. With a sense of urgency, he pushed himself further, repeating that he couldn't fall now. He had to get back to Ayana to see her again, even if it meant confronting his own painful memories. She notices how handsome he has become, but she struggles with the painful realization that he couldn't recognize her. Reflecting on how much he has grown. As her emotions overwhelm her, she wishes she could follow him, but is held back by her own sense of guilt. She feels she doesn't have the right to pursue happiness. Riku has finally caught up to Ayana. He holds her from behind as he exclaims with relief, having found her after searching. Riku expresses his deep feelings for Ayana, telling her that he loves her more than anyone else. He recalls the moment he remembered her face when he saw her walking beside him. Ayana, looking hesitant, responds, but her words suggest uncertainty about her feelings as she tries to explain that she had tried to dress simply for the occasion. Riku, however, insists that when one loves someone, they can tell the difference, especially when it comes to Ayana. She suggests that they think of a way for Riku to find happiness, telling Riku that from now on, they will overcome their struggles together. Riku, with a look of gratitude, thanks her for helping him stay alive. The emotions run deep, as Riku recalls how Ayana once told him to live when they first met. Ayana, with tears in her eyes and a gentle expression, asks Rika to stay with her for the rest of his life. A bright bell rings above the chapel, while Kona fusses with Iona's veil, making Haruno call out for Kana to stop it. Kana beams, saying the suit is truly magical, and Haruno smiles softly, telling Ayana she looks so beautiful. Riku and Ayana share a gentle kiss at the altar. Soft light shines around them, and the flowers on Ayana's veil shimmer. Kana watches them with a warm smile. Riki-chan, you're finally able to fly. Haruno stands beside her and nods softly while the church fills with quiet joy. Outside, the bouquet rises into the sky. Birds circle around it as petals drift through the bright sunlight. The moment feels peaceful and complete, carried upward like the flowers in the air.